Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and welcome to today's compilation stories. I always like to do these when I go on holiday for a week or so, do a couple just to keep you tied over. I know some of you enjoy them, but I also know some of you don't like them. So if you don't like them, this is not for you. Click off immediately. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from DFE7205, who says, "My mum wants to have a talk after kicking me out 2 years ago in favor of her boyfriend who bullied me in high school. My dad passed away when I was only 1. It's been me and my mum ever since. As you can guess, my mum and I were very close. When I was a sophomore in high school, my mum got a part-time job as a gym teacher at my school. I supported her when she asked if I'd be comfortable with it. It was extremely uncomfortable when guys would make comments on my mum's appearance. It also gave ammo to Brad, who bullied me in high school. He would make inappropriate comments about her towards me. Brad was a year ahead of me, so I thought I was finally rid of him after he graduated. I was wrong. When I became a senior, my mum started going out very often. Initially, I was happy for her because I wanted her to find someone nice. However, it came to a point where barely got any time together. To be frank, I thought she was avoiding me. This was because whenever I tried to make plans with her, she'd already made plans before. I sort of kept it to myself because I didn't want to come off as needy. I didn't complain when she missed my birthday because she was out all night. When she tried to apologize the next day, I told her it was okay. After 6 months of this behavior, I decided to take action. I asked my mum if we could have dinner together, just the two of us. She said she was too busy. I got fed up and told her to stop ignoring me. She said that she wasn't ignoring me, but that she had a life to live. That really hurt me a lot. Out of anger, I started to ignore her for a few days. After those days passed, she finally apologized to me. However, she said she needed to talk to me about something important. She wanted to introduce me to her boyfriend at dinner. She didn't sound excited about it. It sounds like she almost dreaded it. When the door rang, my mum opened it up and introduced the guy to me. I was in extreme shock. It was Brad. I almost screamed at my mum, asking her what is he doing here. Brad came forward to acknowledge that the situation was uncomfortable, but he's sorry for how he treated me in school and that he really cares about my mum. My mum asked us to sit and let her explain how this all happened. I remember screaming, "I don't give a fuck about your explanation. You tossed me aside for this piece of shit. You're a pathetic excuse for a mother." My mum then defended him when said, "Don't you dare call him that." She then said she tried to accommodate everyone in this tough situation by keeping the relationship away from me. She then said, like it or not, Brad is here to stay. If you don't like it, you're more than welcome to leave. I packed my bags right there and then. I called my grandma and told her about the whole situation. She drove to my house and confronted my mum. After a shouting match between them, I left with my grandma. My mum tried calling me several weeks, but I blocked her. She tried to visit me, but I called the cops on her. After that, she sort of gave up. It's been 2 years since I've heard from my mum. Then I get a call from her yesterday. She said it's urgent and we need to meet up. I don't know if I should go. Bitter Hero says, "Very creepy your mum is dating someone your age who was presumably her student. Seems like an inappropriate relationship before you even consider he bullied you. If you feel comfortable going to see her, then maybe you and grandma can both go together. Otherwise, just tell her she can talk to you on the phone or message, etc." Stella says, "Do you want to talk to her? You don't have to. If it's truly urgent, then she should tell you what it's about before you commit to seeing her in person. Is it that she's been diagnosed with an incurable disease and wants to make amends, or does she need money, a place to live, or something else?" I'll text back, "What is this about?" Keep it all in writing. Do not commit to a phone conversation or meet up unless you want to. Typical agency says there's 3 options. 1, she's pregnant. 2, she's getting married. 3, they broke up. Is she still working at the school? If so, she needs to be reported and fired. The Stoner Boner says, "First, I'm sorry, that's legitimately awful. Second, I would only agree to see her if you have the emotional capacity to be extremely let down. If I was you, I might do it out of curiosity, but it wouldn't be because I expected to foster or maintain a relationship with her again. I think your mother's behavior speaks for itself, and you really can't expect her to do anything other than what she's already done, and that is to hurt you. Her actions speak volumes to her character, or lack thereof. I have no contact with my mum. I'm a 30 female. I kept trying over the years, but it's just better without her in my life. She also knowingly hired my bully to babysit me when they were 16 and I was 8. Cherish your grandma, remain strong, prepare for the worst, hope for nothing from her. And one more from Wario says, dude, your mum is dating your high school bully. Throw the whole mum away. No parent in their right mind would accommodate someone that treated their child harshly. I don't think she cares about you, dude. You may see different, but how you explain this makes your mum seem heartless and values having a relationship with this guy over her own son. I'd leave. OP then updates their post, which says, well, curiosity got the best of me. There was also a burning desire to unload on her. I finally text back my mum asking where should we meet. She said we could meet for lunch at the restaurant at 12 PM. I didn't have any class today, so I was good to go. When I arrived at the restaurant, I heard some woman scream my name. It was my mum, who I haven't seen for 2 years. She asked how I was and said she would hug me, but said she knew I would reject it. Her voice was shaking when she asked me to follow her to the table. Unsurprisingly, Brad was sitting there. He didn't even look me in the eye as we sat down. He just nodded his head as if to simply acknowledge my arrival. As my mum sat down, she started shooting out multiple questions. What have you been up to? Are you in school? How's it going? I got annoyed and told her, stop wasting my time with these questions. What do you want from me? She responded, well, before we tell you, can we explain how all of this happened? I said sure. For those of you asking me to get her ass in trouble with the school board, I hate to break it to you, but they never interacted with each other when Brad was in school. Brad only knew about her because his friends would take pictures of her before gym class started and share them with everyone. It was Brad who approached her at a bar. She didn't recognize him, so he told her he went to the high school she works at and graduated recently. My mum was lonely and jokingly told him she wouldn't tell anyone that he wasn't 21 as long as he hung out with her. They exchanged numbers and made a promise to hang out with each other. She said she knew I wouldn't be comfortable with her seeing a peer of mine. So she kept it a secret and convinced herself it was going to be a short and casual relationship. Eventually, the relationship got serious. When she was hanging out at his house, she asked him about introducing him to me. He told her it wasn't a good idea. She responded by saying, I'll get over the age gap relationship. He was forced to come clean about the relationship I had with him in high school. That's when my mum started tearing up and her voice was shaking. She said she was in shock about what she had done. She couldn't sleep at night because of the guilt. She couldn't even look at me without feeling immense guilt. She had him blocked on her phone. After a week, he sent him a message on Facebook to at least meet him once, and she obliged. He showed up with roses and begged for forgiveness. He even said he'd apologized to me in person and that he's a changed person. She took him back. The next day, she invited him to dinner. My mum burst into tears and begged me to forgive her for hurting me. She then said these 2 years have been painful for her. Finally, Brad spoke and admitted, she misses you like crazy, dude. She still needs you in her life. My mum said, I'm sorry for being an awful mother. We want to make it up to you. We're moving to California and we want you to come with us. We will foot the bill for your education and everything else. You won't have to work at all. You have a permanent place in our home. I don't know what the hell came to me, but I started laughing like crazy, like a madman. It was the most ridiculous proposition. Now this is what makes me the monster. This is what I really came there for. After I calmed down, this is what I said to her. Mum, you're just the most delusional, see you next Tuesday if you think I'll ever forgive you. You are dead to me for good. The only acknowledgement you'll get from me is pissing on your grave when you pass away. Then she was hysterically crying. I got up from the table and left the restaurant. Only a minute after walking to the parking lot, I hear my mum screaming at Brad to stop following me. I really wanted this confrontation. The moment he grabs my shirt, I turn around and sucker punch him in the face. He drops on the road with his mouth bleeding. My mum comes to physically restraining from hurting me until he calms down. I told them, this is what I think about your proposal. It's been 4 hours now after the incident. I know deep down I should be ashamed of myself, but I feel amazing inside. I don't know if adrenaline can last that long. I feel like I took my power back. Someone asked OP and they said, what does a guy do that's only a year older than you to make that kind of money to pay your college? If it's your mum's, wouldn't she already have saved or set that up? It's just weird. OP says, I don't know what job Brad has. My mum, on the other hand, has been saving up money ever since my father passed. I remember her telling me if I got good grades, she'd take out a loan for me to pay for my school and pay it back herself. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from mom0000678, who says, am I the arsehole for forcing my daughter to interact with her aunt? My daughter, 16 female, has been refusing to interact with her aunt, my sister. Aunt, who I call Helen, comes over every Monday and Thursday to bring dinner and catch up with the family. My husband and I enjoy her company, and it's nice to have meals already made for 2 out of 7 days. My daughter, who I'll call Amy, has been avoiding her aunt like she's the plague. On Mondays and Thursdays, Amy goes to either of her friends or boyfriend's house. She leaves at around 10 AM and won't come home until 10:30. We know that Amy isn't doing anything bad because she'll always tell us the night where she's going, and will come home before her curfew. I also have a tracker which she knows about on her phone, so I know where she is. Amy has been doing this since the beginning of July. Recently, Helen has noticed that Amy is never home when she's over. Helen loves Amy and really wants to spend time with her, but Amy refuses. On Thursday, after she came home and Helen left, I asked Amy why she keeps avoiding her aunt. But then Amy blew up at me. Amy started yelling and crying about how horrible Aunt Helen is to her and how she always makes Amy feel like crap. Amy also said that Helen is very mentally abusive towards her and is a gaslighter. I got very angry and told Amy that she's overreacting, that Helen does/says things out of love and that she can't help it. Amy continued to yell and cry about how horrible her aunt is. I told Amy that she was acting like a spoiled brat, and I proceeded to take her phone and all of her electronics away from her. Today, I talked to Amy and said that she now has to stay home on Mondays and Thursdays and spend an hour with Aunt Helen. If Amy doesn't, then she'll be grounded for 2 weeks, and she won't have her electronics for that time either. Amy started to cry, probably trying to guilt trip me, and she begged to at least only do this on Mondays. I said no, and I reminded her of her punishment if she refuses to comply. Amy called me an arsehole and said things that really hurt my feelings. I told Helen about this, and she thanked me for having my daughter stay home. After all, she really does love Amy. My husband said that I went overboard with taking her things away, but believes that Amy is being a brat. So Reddit, am I the arsehole for forcing my daughter to interact with her aunt? I think I'm in the right, but I want to see what you all think. Edit. Amy has told me some bad things Helen has said and done to her in the past. I understand those things, and I've talked to Helen about those things. Helen has apologized and wants to make things up with Amy, but Amy has refused. So I don't have to respond to every question. When Amy was younger, she'd spend a lot of time over at Helen's house. Helen is the type of person who says what's on her mind, and she never holds back. Helen would tell Amy if she's eating too much or too little, that she looked bad, didn't look pretty, as well as other things. Amy claims that Helen would force her to eat a lot, even if Amy was uncomfortable. There are a lot of things that Amy refuses to tell me, so all I know is that Helen has made a few comments here and there. I must also add that these comments were made years ago. Next edit. I really love Amy and I love Helen too. Helen admits to her wrongdoings, but Amy is the one who doesn't want to sit down and accept the apology. I had to pause at 1 second when it said, Amy also said that Helen is very mentally abusive towards her and is a gaslighter. And then OP says, I got angry and told Amy that she's overreacting, and I was just like, my palm was on my forehead thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, man. And what Amy said in the first edit when she used to stay with Helen, that she's eating too much, too little, which is absolutely awful and could cause all sorts of potential issues. And then this says that she looks bad, doesn't look pretty, as well as other things. And, then you admit that Amy hasn't even told you everything just yet because she doesn't want to. And that's not enough for you. Your daughter doesn't feel comfortable about being around this person, doesn't even want to stay in the house when she's around, and instead of respecting that decision and realizing that Amy has been through some absolute shit with this person, you just totally downplay what she's feeling and says that she has to spend time with her. That's awful. But a deleted user says, first, you don't get to minimize your daughter's feelings. Second, you do not get to minimize your daughter's feelings. This is how you ensure your daughter will come to hate you, start to rebel, and ultimately cut you out of her life when she moves out. If you can't get out of your own way to take your daughter's feelings seriously, then you're failing hard at being a proper parent. Edit. Thank you everyone for all the awards. I'm really happy to see others echo my sentiment. For everyone out there who's had their feelings minimized, my heart goes out to you. I spent my youth minimizing my own feelings out of fear that by the time I found my voice, I wasn't really sure who I was anymore. It took many years to learn what my real voice is. Don't let anyone take yours away from you. Days says you're the arsehole. Seriously, when teens avoid adults like that, literally do not want to be in the house with a person, it's likely that what she's saying is absolutely true. You're putting your sister above your daughter here, and it's definitely going to cost you in the future. Edit, as I reread, I'm seeing so many red flags. You have a tracker on Amy. Your response to your 16-year-old daughter saying she doesn't want to be anywhere near your sister is she's a brat. Her crying is to guilt trip you. You give zero context on why she's avoiding Helen so much. This reminds me so much of the missing reason. Edit 2. As I read comments, I'm getting horrified. Your sister has been both physically forcing someone to eat and verbally not pretty, looks bad, and others abusive since you were kids, but is now okay because she's trying to get better. Not only that, she comes over twice a week. Vultures everywhere says, damn, you really want your daughter to cut contact with you when she's an adult, huh? You're the arsehole, most definitely. Sorry that your daughter hurt your little feelings, but why should she care about your feelings when you clearly don't give a shit about hers? She would be smart to cut you out of her life when she can. You really don't deserve to have a kid. Inside Sympathy says you're the arsehole, and honestly, you and your sister both sound like you have heavily enjoyed being hurtful to your daughter and is disguising it as love. You also seem to enjoy gaslighting and diminishing her when she tries to call you out. I saw in a comment you said that she couldn't avoid Helen forever. It's amazingly easy to do that now, as that she's almost 18. If I were you, I'd be more supportive of her feelings, or you'll find her avoiding you as well. You're her mother. Be better, but be aware there is such a thing as too late when it comes to being a better parent. And one more comment from Queen of Swords who says you're the arsehole. Your daughter is going to great lengths to avoid someone who she states makes her feel like shit, and your response is to dismiss your daughter's feelings and then force her to interact with someone she feels is mentally abusing her. What is wrong with you? Have you ever felt you were being mistreated by someone who is in a position of authority or holds power over you? The fact you are forcing her reinforces the aunt holds power over her. Try to avoid them only to be told you are acting like a spoiled brat and punished. I understand how close sisters are. My sisters are the other half of my heart, but your children come before everyone else. Instead of dismissing your daughter's feelings, take a step back and really evaluate the situation. Why would your daughter go to such extreme lengths to avoid her aunt? You even said that your daughter is being truthful in where she goes. Isn't it a stretch to think your daughter is doing all this just to be dramatic? Then OP gives us an edit/update which says, I've read almost all of your responses and I've looked through as many messages as I can. Some of the things sent to me were devastating to say the least, but not as devastating as me realizing what I did to Amy. I fully accept that I am the arsehole and there are no excuses to my actions. I apologized to Amy and said that whenever she's ready to talk, she can. I also told her that she doesn't have to accept my apology. When Amy is ready, I'll talk to her about Helen. I called Helen this morning and told her not to come over the next few weeks. She asked why, but I didn't give her an answer. I don't want to confront Helen with anything until Amy feels it's okay. After all, Amy is the one who suffered the most. And unfortunately, that was the final update we had on that post. And I would really have loved to know what happened in the future of that one, because it sounds like Amy is going for an absolute awful time. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from Throwaway for Life, who says, am I the arsehole for asking my boyfriend to charge his family member for fraud? Throwaway account. Backstory. I, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 34 male, have been together 5 years and have worked really hard to save for a house. 2 weeks ago, we fell in love with the house and we put down an initial deposit to hold the property. The house won't be built until the end of 2022. We have been in talks with a mortgage broker and the building's finance people. Last week, we received some shocking news when my boyfriend's credit score came back as being bad. There was activity on the statement that was 100% not his and a credit card that has gone into default over the last 6 months. This credit card was originally my boyfriend's, but he swears he closed the account and cancelled the card mid-2019. Long story short, we discovered that a family member that was living with him a few years ago has gotten a hold of the card at some point and has been using the card on and off since 2019. They defaulted on payments in early 2020 but paid this off, then defaulted again in December of last year, and the account is still in default and over $5,000 is owed in charges and late fees. Charges for shopping, news agency, takeaway food and pubs, gambling. My boyfriend has had zero knowledge of this as he hasn't had access to the account after he closed it, and hasn't been receiving statements or notices from the bank. The family member has diverted these to their address. We're now unable to successfully apply for a bank loan for our house as they won't lend to my boyfriend with his credit the way it is. Our options are 2. 1. Proceed with fraud investigations and charges in the family member, allowing us to prove that this is no fault of my boyfriend's and successfully secure the loan. Or 2. Boyfriend pays the debt and we wait at least 2 years from the payoff date for his credit to regain some loss. Option 2 sets us back at least 3 years in starting a family and our lives as homeowners. This will also not allow my boyfriend to secure a bank loan to start up his own business he's been dreaming of starting for a few years. This was the year he planned on. This has devastated us and put a massive delay in our plans. My boyfriend doesn't like conflict and is going with option 2. He isn't even planning on mentioning anything to the family member. He wants all of it to go away and thinks this family member is going through a rough time. I want my boyfriend to proceed with fraud charges and investigation. We have worked too hard to not have our dream house and him owning his own business. So, am I the arsehole for pushing my opinion on my boyfriend? Look, I know dealing with family members and dealing with confrontation can be difficult. Not for all I know, but for many people it can be very difficult. But you have to take into account that it's not just his life this choice is going to affect, it's going to affect your life as well. Like you said, his own business, which will affect your life, and owning a house, which you're going to have to wait years to get now because of this. And we've seen it time and time again on this channel when people are allowed to get away with their behavior and he wasn't even planning on mentioning anything to the family member. There's just no consequences for their actions and it doesn't teach them anything, that they can just continue to get away with what they're doing. And they may be going through a rough time, but turning someone else's life upside down, it's just bullshit. I know you was always at some point going to discover this information if you wanted a house, or somewhere along the line when he needed to purchase something, he was going to realize that his credit score was going to be ruined. But just say that he didn't discover it for whatever reason, this person would have continued to do what they are doing right now. This person may have an issue. Gambling was mentioned in there. That's a possibility, right? But it's still not an excuse for the behavior that's being shown here. And it simply needs to be confronted, in my opinion. Up says, not the arsehole, but is this really someone you want to build a life with? Having this kind of baggage. He's willing to pay off a debt incurred by someone fraudulently and not even address it with that person. What happens if this person does it again? You already taught them there's no consequences if they spend the money they don't have, and then it will be tied to you as well. You need to think long and hard about whether this is something you want to deal with long term. I do think it's odd he's willing to pay for it and not address it with the person that incurred the debt. Are you sure the person didn't have permission to keep using it as long as they paid the bill? OP responded saying, I've had these exact thoughts and I'm still battling with myself on what decision I make going forward. Because I agree, I'm not willing to let this person potentially do this again and it become my issue. My boyfriend swears to me he had no knowledge of this. He wouldn't have agreed to let his family member use the card as he knows this person isn't good with money. Zadidol says, been there, done that with a family member destroying my credit. Stealing money out of my bank accounts, writing bad checks, stealing my engagement and wedding ring to pawn it. Had to pay to get it out on the last day. Needs to report in order to fight with credit agencies and attempt to get these debts resolved. Also place fraud alert and lock his credit report so no one else can use his identity. Not the arsehole. OP responded saying, we have put a lock on his credit so no more charges or inquiries can be added to this account. This person has also used my boyfriend's identity to apply for payday loans. The credit card account has been locked also, and card has been frozen. I feel right now it's still really fresh. We've known all of 2 days. I don't think my boyfriend is thinking clearly because it's not just the credit card lowering his score, it's all the other inquiries that have been made too. He needs the fraud report evidence to fight the rest too. No says, not the arsehole, but it might be a losing battle. This will affect both of your futures and he's making a decision where the people who did wrong get no consequences and the innocent people get further screwed. All in the name of avoiding conflict. His response of the relative going through a hard time is cowardice and nothing more. He's showing empathy to the relatives who screwed him over with fraud and is willing to put your future on hold. 2 to 3 years is a lot, and it could be longer because life happens. He's having no empathy for you, who is collateral in this mess. He's choosing the path of least resistance, and if you agree to postpone your life to protect these jerks, you will confirm to him that you are that path. Every time he has to choose who to screw over, he'll choose to spare the rest because you'll create the least amount of hassle for him to deal with. That's not fair to you. You can't control what he does in the end, you can only control your actions. If he chooses to spare his family, then I'd remove myself from the situation and leave. OP responds saying, "Thank you, you've collected and arranged the thoughts I've already had so plainly in front of me. I'm seeing my boyfriend tomorrow and may show him this thread and the comments. I'm hoping this will help convince him of the thing he should do in his best interest." So then OP did respond with the update, which says, "Update, I want to begin by thanking everyone for their advice on my original post. There were some really constructive strategies and words of advice. I spoke with my boyfriend about my concerns and was honest with him that things he was telling me didn't all make sense. He was adamant he didn't know anything about the credit card or the apparent inquiries on his credit account about payday loans. My boyfriend is still refusing to open any fraud investigations against his family member and has said he will pay off the debt himself. But some other things came out during our conversation that he was hiding from me. Lying has been a big issue of his during our whole relationship. In the past, I've forgiven him for his lies, but I can't keep forgiving the same issue every few months when he promises to change. But we're in the same spot every few months. And I'm not talking little lies, I'm talking big lies and even bigger lies to cover up those lies. I know I'm stupid for giving him the benefit of the doubt. So in saying this, my boyfriend is now my ex-boyfriend. When I spoke with my boyfriend about my concerns above, he ended up picking up his bag and walking out on me and drove away. That was the last time I seen him in person. This is how this man has dealt with an issue in our 5-year relationship. We haven't spoken much since, but I definitely resigned to the fact that my relationship is over. I think he is expecting me to forgive him like all the previous times. I've packed up his stuff and will return to him after my city comes out of our 6th lockdown. There is a good ending to this story though. I spoke with my mortgage broker and the housing developers. I can't afford the original townhouse I fell in love with alone, but a smaller townhouse that I also loved came available, and I've been approved for this one. I paid my deposit 3 days before my birthday last month. I bought a house myself. Edits, oh my gosh guys, this update has blown up like I never thought it would. I will try to get around to reading all the comments and messages I've received. Thank you so much for all the well wishes and congratulations. And there was a bit of extra information in the comments. So Tamira says, "Hi, I work in a fraud department for a credit union, and typically when they say they will pay it back instead of filing, that means he did it. Good for you. I'm glad some good came out of this." OP responds saying, "Thank you. Yes, I've come around to the fact that this debt was his, even though he still hasn't admitted it. Him and I are no longer together, and I've purchased a smaller house for and by myself. There have been a lot of things he has lied to me about during our 5-year relationship. I said enough was enough and called it quits and walked away." And that's one of my favorite things about Reddit stories, is that you get people from all different places in life, like this particular person, Tamira, who come in and works for the fraud department, and they've got experience in this. And they said, typically when this happens, it's actually them who spent the money. It might not be, of course, but I just like the fact that someone else brings their own expertise to the table. But what do you guys make of this story? What would you have done in it? Was there any possibility of turning this round, you think? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Reddit and Weep, who says, "Am I the arsehole for wanting to move after being lied to? My fiance, 31 male, and I, 29 female, have been together for 2 years. After getting engaged 6 months ago, we decided that I would move from my downtown apartment to his 300 acres and home. He owns the land and house outright after getting it in inheritance. His place is an hour from where I'm from, in a small town with nothing, stores, food, etc. around. Closest place to get gas is 35 minutes away. And my family is an hour and a half away, which isn't a huge deal, but it's just been an adjustment for me. When talking about the future, I explained that I always wanted to raise my children where I grew up, the suburbs. He grew up in a rural area, School system is not great, but in our decision making, he expressed that the best thing would be to just stay in his hometown because he will never sell his land. After a few odd things have been said by his family, I started to question if he even owned this property. I've seen his land taxes, but when going over his credit and taxes, there is nothing at all about his property in it. I asked him a few times about it, and he acted so offended that I would even ask. I woke up this morning and couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I called the county assessor and found out that this is his uncle's land and home. Uncle is a widow and works out of the state. Basically, for the last 6 months, we've been house sitting. The furniture and everything is his uncle's. I confronted him today, and honestly, I'm considering just leaving, but at the very least, I want us to move. We have the credit and savings to buy a home, but he won't budge and keeps saying his uncle will probably give him the property. I feel like he manipulated me to move here. Now his best man is calling, saying this is an asshole move and makes me come off as a gold digger because I'm mad he doesn't have the assets he claimed to have. So, am I the asshole? But OP did give some additional information in replies to comments, so Babs Garcia says, not the arsehole, he's gaslighting you. It's not about you being a gold digger, it's about his lying. You guys were making future plans and you didn't even really want to live out there, so it's not like you are with him for the house, right? You need to step away and think things through. Go stay with your parents or a good friend for a bit while you think it through. Think about the fact that not even owning it, it's where he wants to stay at 31. Does he even have a couch, a TV, or anything to contribute to a home? Or did he take advantage of the situation and smartly build up a nice nest egg or blow his income? Is living where you are, with someone waiting to get stuff for free, what you want for your future, for your kids? If you decide to walk away, what he or his friends think of you is not your problem. You do you. If you decide that this is fixable, then you might as well stay in the house and save as long as you can to buy what/where you want. Ask anybody that's had a decent deal going and left it to buy a house, how they wish they had stayed a bit longer to save even a bit more, prepare for a new place a bit more. OP responded saying, thank you for the thought out response. He has a good savings and we are both debt free. He says his whole family even says he will get this property when it's time. I, however, am not trying to save money to build a home on someone else's property. I don't even think that's possible with permits and everything. Corpus responds to that and says, he says that, but he said he owned the property. Have you seen the bank statements? Why are you trusting any of what he says? If it is true, and unless his uncle is on his deathbed, you're not owning that house anytime soon. Uncle could get a new partner who wants to race horses tomorrow and you are out of a home. You really need a break from this guy to figure this out. He lied to you multiple times to manipulate you to move where he wanted to live. That is not okay. You need to think about what you actually want because he is not entertaining any kind of compromise. Is he willing to lie and manipulate to get exactly what he wants and is willing to call you names when he is caught? OP responded says, oh, I'm moving with or without him. But yes, I have access to his bank account and we have a savings together. I also have gone through his credit report. When we got together about 6 months in, I asked if I could look at it. He had a medical bill in collections that was like $300 and I made him pay it off. But yes, he lied and I said the same thing about him getting fired or finding a new love interest, etc. Another commenter suggested that they keep separate finances because of OP been lying for 6 months and OP responded saying no, he's been lying for 2 years. We had a savings together for the wedding. I already transferred most of it into my checking. Kev Welch says his uncle might give him the land or he could ask his uncle to let him buy some of it to build his own home. But none of that matters. Your fiance is a liar. He lies and, when asked outright, uses anger and fear to try and keep you from pressing further. And once his lies are discovered, he doesn't apologize. He accuses you of being money hungry and only have an interest in him for his assets. This is some classic Darvo use. It's a common tactic of abusers. Look it up, OP, not the arsehole. And I haven't heard Darvo used in quite a while, and just in case you haven't, it stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. But we have one more comment from Lil 500 Honda CBR who says, you never pined to be a country girl, OP. You're upfront about that, I'm guessing. But your fiance has been stringing you along, hiding his finances and hoping you'll magically transform into Daisy Duke. You flat out lied about his inheritance and his ranch sitting for free, in the hope that his uncle might someday die and leave him that property. Someday. Yes, you were manipulated and then some. You were bamboozled into ranch sitting for free and given up your apartment lease too, which sucks. Time to put an end to this mess. Find an affordable place in your town, near your job and in a location that you like. Use your credits to either rent or buy, in your own sole name. You're not a gold digger, but you are a realist. Prove it to everyone and stake out your own space. Feel free to tell fiancé that he can have the country or he can have you. Honestly, if that's a deal breaker and he doesn't want a city girl, he should have left you in peace. Not the arsehole for being angry that you were massively lied to, OP. Lies have consequences. So then OP did give us an update in the comments of this post, which says, "So, I know a lot of people said to take a few days and figure out what's next. I decided last night that I am done. Especially since, like many predicted, I found out he'd been lying about more than just this. I'm calling today to cancel our venue. That's $4,500 down the drain. As far as the savings, I've proof that what I took is mine. It wasn't much, but it's over $15,000, so I'm confident that I can leave and have a good cushion. I have a year left of my master's program and I work a remote job with unlimited PTO. I'm taking the day off to pack, and my best friend and her boyfriend, who is like a brother to me, offered their guest room to me. I'm going to stay there and continue saving while I look for my own property that's actually mine. I hadn't done hardly any planning for our wedding, which I blamed on school and work, but now I know it's a subconscious choice. I also had a separate savings that I started before we ever met in the event that I had to pay for my master's program. Luckily, my job is paying for that. I think that is what is most infuriating. Together, he also had separate savings that doesn't have as much as mine, but still. We had plenty of money and savings to buy land and build a home, and we are both debt-free. But that is no longer an option for me. Last night, he was begging to make it work. Started saying he would move wherever I wanted and was apologizing profusely. I made him call his friend on speaker to let him know that he's been living a lie and that I'm leaving him. Thank you all for your responses. I'm meeting with my therapist this morning and my dad will be coming this evening to help me load up all of my things." Then there was one more comment from OP which says, "I was able to get some of the money back because it's so far from the wedding date. A year from now." Now, I got to say, I didn't understand the logic from fiancé, relying on potentially, maybe one day, getting a house from someone else. At 34 years old is your life plan currently, and it's basically a gamble, it feels to me. And not being honest and upfront to your partner of 5 years, to your fiancé of 5 years about that, but basically lying and manipulating them to get them to move in with you, and then hoping that it'll all work out in the end. It just seems absolutely bizarre. Like, thinking about that, that's your future plan. And like one of the comments says, that uncle could, find love, move in, and, if uncle gets married, he's probably going to pass that down to his partner then, and then you're totally stuffed. And whenever I come into stories like this, I always look at it from a trust point of view. Someone's lied to you about something like this, which to me is an absolute huge thing. You've upped your life and moved somewhere else on someone else's word, and it ends up just being all bullshit. And that's the trust. It's broken. It's gone. How do you repair that? I know some people can repair it over time, but I'd really struggle to come back from that, for me anyway. You lie to me once, you can lie to me again, and that would be something that would always be in the back of my mind with that person, which, isn't a healthy way to build a relationship, and so I'd feel that would be pretty much the end for me. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from a deleted user who says, "I've fallen in love with the husband of the woman my husband is cheating on me with." I'm so sorry, there are a lot of errors in the title and text. While I think my English is pretty awesome, it's not perfect, so sorry for any confusion. This is going to be a long post. We'll do my best to make it short. I found this sub on a podcast. Maybe I can find comfort about what's been weighing me down for almost a year now. I'm female 36 and my husband is male 38. We've been together for 10 years. We have one daughter who's female 6. She's everything to me. I found out a year ago that my husband is sleeping with his employee, female 30. How? Her husband, let's call him Jay, male 35, contacted me. He was heartbroken and he thought I ought to know. He provided me with text messages and dates when they've been in hotels. I recognized my husband's style and I recognized the other woman. I've seen her on multiple occasions when I visited my husband at work. She's been nothing but kind and pleasant towards me, and she always doted on my daughter. I asked Jay what he wanted to do, and he said he wasn't sure yet, so I requested that we should meet. He agreed. I told him about my life and that I'm not currently working after the pandemic and I lost my job, and now the economy, I haven't really had an opportunity to find a job. Instead, I've been studying these past 2 years. If I divorce now, I won't be able to provide for my daughter. That would probably put her in my husband's custody as a primary provider. I asked him if he could wait for a few months, hopefully longer, and to my surprise, he agreed. I thanked him profusely, but he told me that he didn't know what to do either, so he's happy to wait. Also, the other woman has 3 children from a previous relationship, and he was worried that she would refuse him being in their lives once he confronted her because he's not the father. We kept in touch, however. He called me a few times a week, and soon we started to talk about other things other than our failed marriages. Afterwards, we started going for walks, coffees, movies, etc. I found myself thinking about him more often with a smile on my face. He was the first thing I thought of in the morning and the last thing I thought of before going to bed. For the last 3 to 4 months, we probably mentioned our spouses once or twice. We talked about everything else, and he always makes me laugh. He thinks I'm funny too. 2 weeks ago, we were having a picnic and he just blurted out, "I think that I'm in love with you." When he then explained himself, it just drove the point home that I am also in love with him. He said that at first he wasn't sure why he was feeling like this towards me and explained it away as 2 jilted people finding comfort in each other. But then he realized he wasn't broken anymore, that he even thinks his wife's infidelity as a blessing because it led him to me. That's exactly how I felt too. I didn't know what to say. I told him that I'm terrified that these are false feelings that will go away once we've freed ourselves from those who hurt us. He just beamed at me and said he was willing to take the risk just to find out. He kissed my hand because I thought we were still married, and if we did something, then how would we be better than our SOs? I don't know what to do now. I find myself daydreaming about him, about introducing him to my daughter, kiss him, wake up next to him every morning. I still have 1 semester left, and then I'm probably going to find a job. I've already had some offers for when I'm finished with my studies. I've thanked Jay so many times for being so patient with me about everything. I appreciate that he's waiting for me to put my life in order before we expose our spouses, who aren't really seeing each other as often as they used to do. He told me he's happy to help and he just wants a real kiss as a thank you when everything is over. My goal is now to secure my job and leave this marriage. Am I pathetic for wanting to give Jay and I a shot to see where it would go? Can 2 broken hearts really find happiness together when their love story started like ours? And we do have a couple of updates on this post. We're going to start off with some advice from the comments, starting with Lemon67, who says, "Go for it. I would love to see both of their faces when they find out you 2 are together. Why worry about them? They weren't their SO when they were having an affair." And OP responded saying, "Is it a good sign that I actually don't care what they do or how they react? I've stopped having revenge ideas in my head months ago. I just want to move on and provide a good life for my daughter because she's my world. And she's been the only bright thing in my life since I found out about my husband. Jay is now also a bright spot in my life, but mostly my daughter." Tesla Coil says, "You are absolutely not pathetic, and I think it's wonderful. Something beautiful came out of a horrible situation. It's definitely complicated though and won't be easy, so I wish you luck. I hope it works out, OP." OP responded saying, "The thing I dread the most is people around me start thinking less of me, like I'm being petty or trying to get my revenge. But I'm genuinely in love with Jay, and I have been for months now. I haven't seen him since he confessed that he also has feelings for me. It felt like if we continued seeing each other, it would be cheating, and I don't want that. But we still talk on the phone and text, trying to keep it to the minimum though. Both feel that we know where we have each other and we could just wait." Holy Fudge says, "How long is your semester? I need an update on this, lol. The faces are going to be priceless. But to give you advice, put yourself into therapy and offer the same advice to your hopefully future and last husband. It will help you both. Individual therapy for both of you. Not saying your feelings aren't real, but dealing with other issues will help make it more clear and help you realize where you stand and what you both want. If you 2 give this a try, then you don't want to take this unresolved trauma and baggage into this new beautiful beginning. The baggage and trust issues will always be there, but with therapy, you both will learn to navigate them healthily and maturely. Another thing, take it slowly. Just not for you two, but for the kids involved. I don't have to say this, but focus on your career and make yourself financially independent. Also, your daughter is going to find out about the drama when you divorce either way, so keep the therapy lined up for her. Good luck, and I hope you have a great love story. Wishing you all the happiness. Good luck. Mrs. Happy says this is an oddly adorable love story. I'm sorry your spouse has hurt you, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise, like Jay mentioned. The fact that you two haven't done anything physical despite your partners being heartless assholes is the best part to me. I say fuck it, give them a try once you are single. I just ask that you take things slow as far as introducing the kids and living arrangements. I truly hope this is a happy ending for you, OP. And one more from Kidney Probs, who says definitely use your husband's infidelity to maximize your potential in custody battle for your daughter. You were not crazy for being in love with Jay. He was kind, patient, caring, and mostly he understood exactly what you were going through. Life is too short to worry about what other people think. Keep talking to Jay like normal, and once your divorce is settled, give it a real shot with him. You deserve better than what your current husband gave you. You and Jay deserve to love each other. Good luck. And I guess a lot of comments already said what I said. I was just felt a little bit more cautious than some of them, I guess. I think OP and Jay absolutely deserve love and deserve to love each other if that's what's going to happen. But my concern is, with everything going on already, that it might be quite easy to just fall into each other's arms just like that. And to me, it doesn't feel like, although, it doesn't feel like it's a good time to be doing it whilst you're still with your partners. Divorce them, get rid of them. And then, like people were saying, give it a shot. And the comment about therapy, absolutely, especially when there's children involved at the same time. But let's move on to OP's first update to find out what happened next. And the next update came in entitled, Jay and I have decided not to see each other anymore. Again, this is not an update, kind of is, since nothing new has happened in my life, but I've been feeling so down lately and my emotions are all over the place. Hopefully this post will help me sort out my feelings. I'm sorry if you find it confusing, but this is how I'm feeling right now. Confusion. Also, I'm sorry, but it's going to be a long and bumpy ride like my last one. I'm still busy with my studies, especially now so close to the holidays. Thereafter, I'm going to have a break until January 16th and the start of my last semester. I got 2 job offers, one with unpaid internships starting in April. I like this job very much, since I will be working from my laptop most of the days, and the other one is more of an office job but with better pay. I don't know how the custody arrangement is going to be, but I feel like a job with more flexible hours is a better fit for me. The reason why I'm writing now is that Jay and I met yesterday. If you remember my last, we decided not to see each other, at least not as often since the I love you talk. We did good at keeping that promise, but we still saw each other once since I wrote here, and we continued texting and calling each other on a daily basis. Yesterday we met on Jay's initiative. When I got to the park to our usual meeting spot, Jay was already there. He had flowers, coffee and cake. And I love cake. Who doesn't? And he told me that we're going to have a literal celebration. He said that today was the day we first met a year ago. Yes, it was. I remember that day very well. It was raining then too, but it was much gloomier. I remembered how broken and desperate I was. The feeling that my world had ended. We talked a lot about the progress we made and how much stronger we both felt now. He told me he loved me and it was all I could do not to just fuck everything and jump into his arms. He's so lovely. When I got home, my husband had already picked up our daughter and they were just joking around and having fun. I felt so much sadness and pure horror building up inside of me. What am I doing? What are we doing? All of us. The guilt that washed over me seeing my daughter's happy face playing around with her food. I couldn't take it. My husband and the other woman haven't texted at all this month, and they haven't met either, or at least as far as Jay and I know. Of course, they work together, so we don't know if the affair has subsided or that they have just learned to be more cautious, but my husband has been more attentive at home, warmer and more present. He says he loves me all the time and that he misses me. I haven't been intimate with him since I found out about the affair, and even the smallest touch from him irks me, and any beautiful word or compliment from him sets my teeth on edge. I just want to scream, liar, and I feel like I'm cheating on Jay and accepting my husband's affection, and the disdain for myself becomes unbearable. Make this make sense, please. I looked at my husband and tried to remember what I loved about him, but I couldn't. All I could see is his text to her about how great last time was and what he wanted to do to her next. All the things he once said he wanted to do and did to me that made me feel so special. I tried to think harder about the love, but all I saw was Jay's face. I felt immense rage and hatred towards my husband, but also towards myself and Jay. My husband because he broke us and brought this mess upon us, and myself because I felt that I wasn't trying hard enough with my heart occupied with someone else. Have I just given up so easily because I love Jay and my daughter? She is the one who's going to pay the hard price of seeing her home break because daddy is selfish, greedy cheater, and mummy isn't trying hard enough to save her marriage when she is pining for another man. I couldn't control my feelings of anger and resentment and guilt, so I wrote Jay a long text telling him this and more. He tried to call me, but I couldn't answer him. My heart was swollen in my throat. I told my husband that I wanted to sleep in my daughter's room tonight, something I've been doing a lot since this started. I cried all night watching her beautiful face, so peaceful and happy. This morning, Jay called me again and we talked for over an hour. He was very subdued and I heard the fear in his voice. He told me that he respected my wishes in taking a break from each other, but also to remember that even when I'm at my weakest, I still knew exactly what I wanted, and that I chose to stay to secure a future for myself and my daughter. You're too close now to your goal just to stumble and fall. He said he loved me and that he never felt like this before, and that he will wait. I cried for a good hour afterwards, already missing his voice. I know that my marriage is unsalvageable and I'm doing the right thing leaving it, even with a nagging feeling of guilt that's simmering beneath the surface, boiling over every now and then, waking me up at night, but I need to do this alone now. I want to look back with no regrets. The guilt's probably never going to go away entirely, but at least it won't have Jay's face now that he's not in the picture anymore. So that's what's been up with my life. I told you that it wasn't an update really, and I'm sorry that it's long and confusing, but that's all I have right now. Edit. I am not staying in my marriage. I don't know if my English is this bad or if people don't bother reading long boring rants. I apologize for both, but I'm flawed because of the amount of comments and attacks on me as a person and a mother for staying with my cheating husband. Please tell me, where did I say I was staying? I broke it off with Jay, yes, but it wasn't because I'm going back with my husband. Again, where did I write that I was staying with my husband? Update 2, which came around 20 or so days later, which is titled, Jay has now left his wife. A short update. Hi everyone, I know, I had a dramatic episode last time I was here and swore not to update again, but I'm a woman, I can change my mind if I want to. Last time I was overwhelmed by the amount of comments and messages about being a bad mother and I just couldn't take it, so I freaked out on you, but today I have a little update. It's not about me, it's about Jay. Jay's mum is sick. She lives in another city about 7 or 8 hours drive away. Jay went to visit her and he texted me before going. He apologized for texting me because we weren't supposed to keep in touch anymore, but he wanted to let me know he was out of town. I drove over there on Thursday because it sounded like it was serious. I arrived to the hospital around noon. He looked miserable. His mother isn't even old, she is 58. My heart is breaking. I could only stay for an hour before heading back home. I feel so guilty leaving him alone. His sisters live across the world and they won't be able to fly home before Christmas. On Friday, Jay came home and broke off his marriage. I don't know all the details, but he didn't mention to her that he knew about her infidelity, just that he wasn't happy anymore and didn't want to be married to her. He texted me and thanked me for visiting him and his mother and told me about him filing for a divorce from his wife. He's moving back to his hometown to be with his mother. He left yesterday, but he will be back once more to get the rest of his stuff. Even though I understand him, and even if I wasn't seeing him anymore, the city feels empty and gloomy without him. OP updates one more time, which comes over a month later, which says, I've told my husband that I know about his affair, and I've been working towards leaving him for the past year. Hi again. I'm sorry I deleted my account. I'm very new to this and I just couldn't handle the criticism I was getting, so I deleted my account. I've understood now that the internet doesn't owe me politeness and people will say their opinion because I put myself out there, and that makes it, I guess, okay for people to say hurtful things because I chose to share my story. I've learned that I could deactivate all private communication, so if you have something nasty to say, be brave and put it in the comments instead. Although I'm hoping for a less amount of negative comments this time, since people were mainly angry that I was taking my time to leave my husband. Thankfully, while my account is deleted, I still, with some digging, found my original posts. I've included them here to those who haven't followed my story. I'm still going strong with my studies, and as I said, I've secured a job in April with a decent salary that will increase with 30% once I graduate 2 months later. I've also signed a lease on an apartment that is a few blocks away from my daughter's school. You can't imagine the happiness I was in when I found the apartment, but most importantly that they accepted my bad credit, having not had income for over 2 years now. My job contract and reference was enough, and I have to pay for 3 months ahead. I get the keys April 1st too. I still need to talk to a lawyer. I just don't want to throw my money before it is getting closer, and I need the help. I have found a non-profit organization for women that I can call and ask for information and advice. I'm not really in an abusive marriage, but they have experience of all sorts of marital and divorce problems. As I stated, since I found out that my husband was cheating on me, our sex life died. In the beginning, my husband didn't seem to bother about it probably, though certainly because he had someone else. Someone new, but with time, it has been over a year now, and God, it has been the longest and yet shortest year of my life. With time, he started to show me affection again, trying to get intimate with me. I avoided him like the plague. He never pressured me, but he was getting upset and I felt him getting frustrated. I think his affair had died out by then, or maybe it wasn't as fun and as exciting for them. I don't know. I'm not an expert on affairs. For over 2 months now, he's been trying to open the subject of our non-existent sex life, but I just told him that I didn't have a drive or that I was busy. This being my last year of studies. I've been able to keep him at bay, and while my explanations and excuses weren't making him happy, they were good enough to keep him away. That is until about a week ago when he wanted to discuss this seriously. I told him again that I was busy and that my sex drive is very low. It is. He said that it wasn't just the sex. We had no intimacy. He barely is allowed to be near me. I never talk to him anymore, like I don't make an effort anymore. I asked him if we could just wait until after the holidays because I'm too busy, and I didn't want to ruin it for our daughter who loves Christmas. He then said something that triggered every nerve on my body. Something like it was not healthy for a marriage when one partner neglects the other because then you start looking somewhere else. I just said that it wasn't true because he started sleeping with her name, way before I started neglecting him. He was in total shock. First he tried to know more. Maybe he misheard me. Then he started to deny it. Then made excuses, then started apologizing. Then he started asking for details on what my plans were. When I told him about me getting a job in an apartment, he started pleading to try and hold me. Now this past week, he's tried to talk to me every day, and I've been calm with him. He had so many questions why I didn't tell him before. At least he could have explained. She meant nothing to him. The relationship ended. He had no feelings for her. It was just physical. He loved me and nobody else. Think about our daughter. He regretted what he did, and that's why he ended it. Why was I not more upset? I told him that I had mourned for us for a year, and I'm over it now. He still thought this was unfair because this is all new to him. I told him about my job, my new place, and I asked him to be patient with me and to think about our daughter and put her first in whatever is coming. He was so angry by that and told me that if I thought about our daughter for a second, I would have confronted him there and then. Be honest. We could have tried to fix it with therapy and some efforts because he never loved anyone like he does me, and he would drop everything else to try and make it right with me. But I chose secrecy, plotting and planning my life without him while pretending everything was fine. Did I though? I started crying and begged him that however angry he is with me, not to take it out in a way that affects our daughter. I told him that I did all of this for her. I didn't want her to see us fight. I didn't want to leave without having the means to offer her a good life. Now he is so angry with me all the time. He barely looks my way. He's still sweet with our daughter though, and that is comforting. I sleep in my daughter's room most nights. I never meant for it to blow up this soon, but you can spend your whole time planning and preparing the perfect exit, but life has never been predictable. I don't regret my outburst. Maybe it was time anyway. I'll continue communicating with him about the importance of staying civil to each other. He's angry now and he feels cheated and deceived, and I get all that, but I need him to put aside the hurt and think of our daughter, just like I did. And just like I did, he will get over the pain in time. Sorry again for the long post and for the grammar. Edit, Jay is in the process of divorce too. He's moved back to his hometown because his mother is very ill, I'm afraid. His sisters live in Australia, but they have both come home, so it feels good that he and his mother are not alone. I have visited them 3 times since I heard the sad news, but he lives far away, so I haven't been able to stay for long periods to support them. We talk over the phone every morning though, and he is devastated. Edit 2. No, I haven't told my husband about Jay, nor am I gonna. If by chance Jay and I end up getting together, everyone will know, including my husband, but we are not willing to tell my husband or anybody about how Jay and I met. We've decided that long ago when we were dreaming about our future together that we wouldn't tell our exes how we met. It is for the best for everyone involved. I'm keeping this promise. It is nobody's business but ours. We don't know what the future holds. Jay lives in another town, 8 hours drive away. We haven't talked about us in ages. We have a lot going on in our lives separately. All I care about now is his mum doing better, or at least not suffer. I had to go back and read that last update afterwards because the absolute cheeky bastard getting angry at OP because she didn't confront him earlier and said, if you thought about our daughter, you would have confronted me earlier and be honest about it. Don't get me started. Accusing OP of plotting behind his back. This dude's been cheating behind her back all this time. And I've got to say, I'm sorry that OP was getting shitty comments from people about it, about staying with this person. I think it's very easy to say, you need to leave this person immediately and you're an idiot for hanging around with this person for so long, when that's just not the case. It's so many different moving parts in a relationship that you have to deal with. It's not simply up and leave immediately. She explained how she's worried about the custody, the finances, her daughter, the feelings for Jay going on in the background. It's not just, all black and white. And I know some people will always say, yes, it absolutely is, and you should leave immediately, but I just don't feel it's that way. Dealing with emotions, dealing with love is incredibly difficult, especially what's been going on in OP's life here. She's been cheated on. She found out. It's all in the background. She's trying to deal with her studies at the same time. Her daughter, worried about custody. There's just so much going on in one story. How do you navigate something like that? And I personally feel that OP is dealing with it to the best of her ability at the moment. Yes, she had the outburst. Who wouldn't have an outburst when he's saying this shit to you to your face? And it might have been the best course of action at that moment in time. But all I can say to OP is I really do wish you the best for your future, and I hope things do work out. Whatever happens with Jay, if you have a relationship or not, or if it just turns into a good friendship, I wish you all the best. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from a throwaway account and says, am I the arsehole for not wanting to go to my 26 female sister's 29 female wedding because of my insomnia? My sister, let's call her Hannah, isn't speaking to me right now because I RSVP'd no to her wedding in January. My mum wants me to change my RSVP, but honestly, the wedding isn't going to be possible for me to attend, and based on how my sister is acting, I don't want to go anymore. Ever since I hit puberty, I've had really bad insomnia. I usually go to bed at around 6 AM or 7 AM and wake up around 1 PM or 2 PM. I've tried to change my sleep style and I just can't. It's like dealing with international jet lag. Hannah knows this but always forgets and tries to wake me up for family things whenever she visits home, and I have to lock my bedroom door and really work to keep her out. When I got the invitation for Hannah's wedding, I was super excited for her because she has always wanted a big wedding, and it looks like she's going to get it. And that might not be what I want/would want, but she does, and that is exciting. And I can acknowledge that. But then I saw the timeline and there's a brunch at around 10 AM. The ceremony is at noon and there's an afternoon party. I asked Hannah if I could just come to the afternoon party since I'll be sleeping at 10 AM. And she got furious and started yelling over the phone how since I'm her sister, I need to be there for the ceremony. I laughed and told her there was no way I could be there on time because it would basically be like trying to get someone on a 9 to 5 work schedule to attend an event at 2 AM. I probably shouldn't have laughed, but it just felt so ridiculous. If she wanted me to be there for the whole thing, she needed to plan for a time when I could actually attend. I work a full-time job as a freelancer, just not normal hours because of my insomnia. So it really bugs me when people act like my time is worth less than theirs. But now wedding preparations are happening at the house. The brunch is going to be here. And my mum is really upset with me for not coming to the wedding. She wants me to apologize to Hannah and be one of her bridesmaids. Hannah isn't speaking to me at all, but she is speaking to our mum, so maybe that is what she also wants. I just feel like she owes me the apology, not the other way around. I might be wrong because this is the first big fancy wedding in our family, and maybe I just need to suck it up because it's tradition to have a morning breakfast or something. Am I the arsehole? And then someone in the comments asked how OP made it through high school, and they responded saying, I know I shouldn't have laughed. High school was really difficult for me. I was bullied a lot and late to morning classes pretty much every day. I ended up taking classes online for my senior year to graduate on time, and it works so much better. The thing is that I just can't think when I'm so tired in the mornings, and doing things online saved me. I got a college degree online at night, and now my freelancing is also online, and I can just do that at any time. So it's not like my insomnia has been a problem for my career or my friends, just this one conflict with Hannah. Empress Jaina Solo says, OP, you don't have insomnia, you get plenty of sleep. You likely have delayed sleep phase disorder. It's when your natural sleep cycle is different from most people and makes you nocturnal. A writer describes their experiences here and shares a link. All that said, your sister is essentially asking you to pull an all-nighter. It's uncomfortable but often doable for most people as a one-off experience. Your sister is likely having a morning and afternoon wedding because it's cheaper. I don't think you're necessarily the arsehole, especially since your family doesn't seem to understand the severity of what they are asking from you. At the same time, I don't think you're doing enough to try to do something you really want to do. You do want to be there, correct? Either no one's an arsehole here or everyone sucks here. It sounds like there is a lack in communication and accommodation all around. OP responded to that and says, oh my god, I don't know what to say. The article made me cry, thank you. And quotes, my fatigue is less a product of my own body and more of society's expectations for when one ought to be awake. And then says, yes, if I could be different, I would be. But you are also right, and so is everyone else on this thread. I do want to be there, so I need to try harder to be there. I like the idea of doing an all-nighter to just stay up late so I can be there on time for the breakfast. I don't know if Hannah will forgive me and let me attend again, but I'm going to apologize and ask if I can come. We may butt heads, but she is my only sister, and I don't want our relationship to be nuked over this, and it's clear that it will be if I don't apologize. Danger Lime says you're the arsehole for expecting events to be planned around you, for laughing and for not caring enough about her wedding to consider talking to a doctor for help. If this happened in puberty, how did you attend high school? And we already got the response to that one. Key Bit says you're the arsehole for laughing at your sister and expecting her to plan her wedding around your chosen sleep schedule. People who work second and third shifts frequently have to plan ahead and adjust their schedules in order to attend family events or trips. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable. Go to your doctor and start planning on how you can best change, temporarily, your sleep schedule so that you can be a part of your sister's wedding. If you don't, be prepared to face a lifetime of resentment or low contact, no contact as you continually miss family milestone events. Bookie Nerdworm says you're the arsehole. Sleep disorders aren't automatically insomnia. And since you can sleep for 6 to 8 hours straight, that doesn't sound like insomnia at all. You have time to try to adjust your schedule between now and the wedding. Also go see an actual specialist about this and not just your primary care physician. And one more comment from Sophie Blitz who says, I have very similar issues and you can get to one event on time. You are also seemingly very unbothered by it. Your only issue is that she is mad and you are not upset at the prospect of missing it. You must have to get up for some stuff. Meetings, interviews, appointments, travel, bookings. I see someone has brought up school. Again, I have similar issues and I do understand that it's more difficult than it sounds. But if something is important, I have a series of somewhat mental things to do that will ensure I can get up and be present. The fact that you aren't even going to try and make it to her wedding does mean you're the arsehole. OP then edited their post which says, okay, that was a universal am I the arsehole. I will apologize to Hannah and ask if I can still attend the wedding. I think it is probably best if I am not a bridesmaid, but I can still put on a dress and show up even if I am tired. Thank you to everyone that sent in medical tips. I'm realizing that I need to get a second opinion that isn't our family doctor. because she is actually kind of dismissive about my sleep issues, and I used to like that because she made my mum calm down and supported me with a doctor's note for online high school, but some of you mentioned high blood pressure and delayed sleep phase disorder, and I want to talk to someone who is at least willing to investigate that with me. Then OP gave us their first update, which says, I sat down and talked with my mum about the situation with Hannah, and it was rough, but I think she understands a little better now where I'm coming from and is going to help me find a sleep specialist to go to. I asked her if she thought I should call Hannah directly or if she should talk to her first, and she said I should do it, so I tried calling but she didn't pick up, so I sent her an apology text. No response yet, but I said sorry for laughing and for acting self-centered, and that if she would still have me at the wedding, I'd be happy to attend, but that I probably shouldn't be a bridesmaid, but I could do other things at the wedding like pass out stuff, and that I just want to make sure she has a good time. I don't know if she will forgive me, but I do feel better now that I am trying. I've been also watching a lot of videos on sleep rhythm disorders, and a lot of symptoms in my life make more sense now, so seriously, a big thank you to everyone who gave me tips and ideas for what to search and what to ask my new sleep doctor once I find one with my mum. OP then shares another update which came around a week or so later, which says first off, it was a big eye-opener to see that so many people thought I was the arsehole. And after reading your comments, I agree with you. I guess I've been living a kind of sheltered life and I wasn't thinking about the wedding the way I should have. I was kind of viewing it as a big party, more like a birthday party than a once-in-a-lifetime event, and that was a mistake. Hannah asked me if I could get a coffee with her outside of the house, and I was a little surprised that she wanted to meet that way, but I obviously said yes. I was getting really worried that she wasn't going to respond at all, but I think that was the best decision ever because Hannah and I had a great conversation. It was kind of intense, but I think really necessary, about some stuff that happened when we were kids and our relationship with our mum. I won't go into all the details here, but TLDR, Hannah apologized for trying to wake me up whenever she visited. I apologized for laughing about her wedding, and we both agreed that I need to A, talk to more doctors, and B, move out of our mother's house. We grew up pretty sheltered, and I hadn't realized how much it was impacting my mood and energy until Hannah started talking about what she experienced when she moved out and went to college. She left home pretty early, at 16, so we really didn't know each other as adults much at all. Hannah told me that when she first moved out, everything got easier with our mother, and she started going to therapy and got really into fitness and nutrition, and she realized that she felt a lot better with less contact with our family. But she got really worried about me being left home, and wanted to check on me / encourage me to move out too, but didn't know how to communicate that. Particularly since I was always sleeping whenever she was over. I have some money saved from freelancing and saving on rent, so I'm going to think about different places to move to. My job can be done from anywhere, so now that I'm thinking about moving out, it feels weird that I was so stuck in my high school routine that I didn't even consider any other options. My sleeping schedule is still super fucked up, but Hannah has a friend who's a nutritionist that is willing to do a consult with me over Zoom. So that's something I'm going to do next week. I called my family doctor and asked for referrals, but the only available appointment slot is like 2 months out, and I'm not sure if I will even be in the state at that point. So I didn't book it yet, but I'm definitely going to try and get a medical team once I know what my plans are. Thanks again to everyone, particularly everyone who messaged me directly with advice. And OP added one more relevant comment which says, "Hi, I'm definitely going to book with other specialists. A nutritionist is just one part of the medical team I hope to put together. I just mentioned her explicitly since I already have that appointment scheduled, and I think it's nice that my sister helped me connect with her friend." And I kind of wish that we had some more information about the sheltered life around mum as well, as it seemed like there was a lot more there going on. But what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from a throwaway account, and I do want to give you a warning before we do get into the story. It does contain sexual assault, and it's titled, "I, 25 female, agreed to be a surrogate for my sister and her husband, late 30s, but am regretting it now. For most of my life, my sister Alice has been wanting kids, but has been unable to carry a baby to full term, in part due to endometriosis. She was in a lot of pain and had to have a hysterectomy. Alice and her husband Ben has fostered 5 children and have adopted 2 children with autism. and are great parents. They have a good home environment and are financially well off. But recently, Ben, and after a while Alice, was bitten by the urge to have a kid biologically related to them, because they wanted a chance to do things right and provide the best start in life. Their views, not mine. So they asked me to be their traditional surrogate and said that they would cover all costs, legal, medical, etc. associated with it. They would be also paying off a student debt, renting a 2-bedroom apartment for 3 years, plus giving me a substantial amount of cash. I said sure, it'd be a 9 months of my life in exchange for being set up for quite some time, and my immediate family thinks it's a great idea. However, when I said sure, I was expecting something along the lines of IUI, where we'd go to the doctor to get Ben's sperm prepped, me getting shots, etc. Basically, the whole artificial insemination package. But Alice and Ben have asked me to, well, get pregnant the traditional way. Their rationale is that 1, it is the cheapest way, 2, they don't want to go to the hospital given the corona pandemic, and 3, they think babies conceived naturally are healthier / the pregnancy would be safer without the chemicals. I just can't get over the extreme ick factor. And if this was going to take place at home, I think a syringe would work fine. Am I going loony for thinking of going back on my word? Is their request reasonable? My immediate family doesn't see anything wrong with it and has been congratulating my sister on her impending baby. On the other hand, if I do give it up, am I also mad for passing up what is essentially $200k, especially in this economy now? Edit. Thank you. I see that I'm completely out of my depth here and will be discussing with my sister about alternatives that don't include me carrying the baby. Not looking forward to that discussion though. And before we go to the update, we're going to cover some comments, starting with Limerick, who says, "This is just wrong in so many ways. Who can support this method of getting you pregnant? It could take multiple attempts. How many times does Ben want to have sex with you? Is Alice really okay with her husband having sex with you?" Mind Taker says, "None of this is okay. You are too young and, not to be mean, dumb to make this kind of life-altering experience. 25 is not an age where you can actually know if this is the right thing for you. You barely know who you are now. You are just getting comfortable in your own skin, and you sure as shit don't have the tools to make this kind of decision on your own without legal and medical advice and meetings. Never fuck your sister's husband under any circumstances. That sounds like a straight up fucking plot. No reasonable human would suggest that, which makes me think her husband found himself a loophole and used some Google research to find enough bullshit evidence to present it as an option. You say that they are great parents, and that's wonderful. But to think of this, to present this, and to believe it, they're straight up fucking idiots. As fucking idiotic as anti-vaxxers and flat earthers. So while it's great to know you don't have an ounce of smarts to be a good parent, this doesn't make this idea good. Finally, 2 special needs kids is a tough road to go down, period. A third is a fucking bad idea. To even say, to have our own kid is fucked right up. Think about what even starting that line of thinking will end up doing to the kids who aren't their own. Don't do that to a kid, man. These people are fucking idiots, and they've dragged you into their nonsense. The reason I said that you're too young and not wise enough to do it is a proven fact that you even considered it. You are such a great sister and clearly a nice person, trying your best to help out your family. But this is such a clusterfuck of bullshit and bad ideas by 2 people who should know better. Man, you have a fucked up family to have any of them go along with this. A super fucked up family. Pregnancy fucks your shit up. Being your sister's husband's human fleshlight is fucked right up. If you meet a man in the future, take a long fucking time before introducing him to that bunch of skin bags. Because that's just an entire family of red flags draped in stupid. Anyone who wants to make a human being using the lowest bidder is insane. To do something awful and unsafe because it's cheaper. Your sister and her husband are the Hale Burton of human beings. Dear God, don't do this. And most of the comments went pretty much along that line, so we're going to go straight to OP's update now, which says, "All the comments on my previous post showed me that I'm way too young, dumb, and ignorant with what I signed up with. I started researching actual lived experiences and read so many horror stories that I've decided to not go ahead with being involved in any way, shape or form with helping them have kids. In fact, I'm not even sure if I ever want to get pregnant after all the stories about 3rd and 4th degree tears, poop, miscarriages. I'm clearly not in the right stage of my life/maturity to even consider doing something of this magnitude. The difficult part was mustering up all the courage to call my sister to tell her my decision. I really look up to my sister and love her lots, and our family and religion has always been about helping others out where we can. When I called her to tell her, we had a short conversation at first where I basically said, "Sorry, can't do it, but that doesn't mean I love you any less." She seemed sad but said she was happy to respect my decision, and I thought that was it. Then just last night, sister and brother-in-law called me back over Zoom. My sister was crying and begged me to reconsider, as both of them really wanted biological kids. Brother-in-law told me that they were really disappointed in me and hoped that I would find it within me to do this. When I told them my concerns, my brother-in-law just said pregnancy and motherhood is a beautiful and natural process, and that I was made for this. I'm so glad I did this over video call instead of in person, because I just hung up on them and faked having connection problems. I've been ignoring their text so far, and frankly, I don't know what else to say. But anyway, thank you from the bottom of my heart for opening my eyes. OP then posts another update which came around 4 months later, which says, "Leaving for the airport in a few hours to move across the country, and I can't sleep. I plan to slowly phase out contact with my family and community, even though I love the people in there lots. Long story short, I went over to Alice and Ben's house to visit their kids in May. While there, they asked me in person to reconsider my decision. Sometime during this, Ben started kissing and groping me. I let him. I know typing this out makes me seem dumb for going over and weak, because I was. But I just froze, and it was very difficult to say no in the moment, especially with my sister crying and Ben having quite a presence in person. Trust me, I've replayed the scenario so many times in my head, wishing I was stronger in that moment. Luckily, that was the extent of it, and I was able to leave shortly after because I don't know what I would have done otherwise. I also received surprisingly no support from my parents or my bishop regarding my earlier decision. I didn't tell anyone the recent event. I don't think they knew what Alice and Ben were asking me exactly, and I didn't bring it up either. I was already sort of an outsider for not really conforming to the usual lifestyle of being married with kids, but this still shocked me. All these things combined made me reevaluate my life. Working from home and having this much time alone has also given me a lot of time to think about things. I fell down the rabbit hole of reading stories of people who also left the church, and I want that life for me. So I spent the last 3 months making arrangements, transferring to another part of my company, and today is the big day. I know it's not going to be easy. Pretending to be normal at the last Pioneer Day family gathering was the hardest thing I needed to do. But I did it for myself and for closure. But I'm going to get through this. Thank you for the advice, and stay safe everyone." And OP shared one more post, which was titled, "Feeling Grateful 1 Year On. My 1 year anniversary of leaving the mess that was my family behind is coming up. Dusting this old account off to keep a log that maybe I can look back on. It's a beautiful sunny day here. Just feeling really grateful for life and all the opportunities I've had. Here's to the first year without them." Holy moly. Now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Absolutely wild, and I'm glad OP got out of there. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from PWO Jax, who says, "I, male 32, ruined Christmas, and I have no regrets. Is anyone else's family this dysfunctional? Every year there is an argument in my family, and after 32 years, I was the one who blew up for the first time. Long story short, I'm half Korean, half white. My mum is Korean, my dad is white. So we only have my dad's side here in the US. For years, I watched some of my dad's side speak down to my mum. They never invite her to things. Me and my brother have always been treated like outsiders by some family members. To be frank, I don't care how I'm treated. Every year we bite our tongues and survive the holidays because it's only 2 to 3 times a year. We repeat the process and don't expect much from these family members. My mum even buys gifts every year for these family members, and she gets nothing in return and never complains. My white grandma is 80, and she's the only thing anchoring us to some of these family members. 3 times today, I watched a family member, aunt, raise her voice to my mum. Speak to her as if she doesn't speak English and shut her down over simple questions like, where should I sit? I watched my mum quietly recoil and I couldn't stand to see it again. This aunt does it the most and I finally blew up. I yelled so loud that everyone stopped what they were doing. I told them enough is enough, to start treating my mum with respect and as an equal in this house. To stop speaking to my mum, who's lived in the US for 35 years, like she doesn't speak English, and stop shutting her down over simple questions. I watched it happen year after year and will not allow it to happen anymore. My aunt stomped away and was so upset she left. As she was leaving, I walked up to my aunt to hand her my mum's yearly gift to her. I said, for 30 years, I watched my mum give you a gift every year. I watched her speak to you as an equal with respect. I've never seen you treat her with the same. She didn't say anything, but before she left, she apologized to my mum. Before I left, I apologized to everyone and explained why I was upset. Everyone was shocked how mad I got. I felt like everyone understood why I was mad. Prior to this, around Thanksgiving, I spoke to some family members about how I was hurt. They never included my mum on family things or even texts about family emergencies, which they have been trying to do more. After blowing up, it made things awkward. People trickled out early too. Now my grandma is talking about not doing Christmas anymore due to the constant family drama. I feel bad, but I've never felt so proud to stand up for my mum. Does anyone have any advice on this? Handling rude family. Should I do something else? And we do have an edit to this post and an update as well, which we're going to cover after some of the comments. And to me in this one, there's times where we say there's a better way to deal with things and, talking it out, etc., etc. But sometimes arseholes need to be called out for their arseholish behavior. And this has been going on for 32 years. And you even apologized for blowing up yourself to the family and explained what the situation was, and they need to hear it. But I'm Back says, everyone's family is a bit dysfunctional. Your aunt needed that. Your mum needed that. Your grandma can get over it or not. Her decisions are her own. You didn't ruin Christmas. That was happening for 32 years before you spoke up. Bedtime Shine says you should have done this a long time ago. Actually, your dad should have. Lady Whatever replies to that and says, exactly. Why does he let family do that to his wife? That's fucked up. OP responded to that and says, when I was younger, my mum would always want to help with cooking or in the kitchen. They blew up on her if she didn't do it right or quick enough. They all have control issues. In the last 10 years, she's been resorting to sitting in the living room watching TV. Recently, it's just simple questions. Where should I sit? Honey, do you want leftovers? It also drives me nuts when people's octaves rise when they speak to someone whose second language is English. My mum has lived in the US longer than she lived in Korea. It makes me miss my grandfather who died when I was younger. He treated her like a daughter. Lady Whatever says, even if you ruined Christmas, it was the good thing to do. Nobody should put down someone else like that. Rude and disrespectful. And I bet your mum is going to reprimand you about it because she seems like a very respectful person, but deep down, she's very proud of you. OP said, yeah, she told me we are better than that, but also said, I don't know what the hell is wrong with her. My mum is uber religious, so she's been praying about it for years. It's been her coping mechanism, to be honest. I'm like, F that. She also just gave me a long hug in the kitchen a few minutes ago. A deleted user says to OP, where is your dad from all of this? If somebody dared to mistreat my wife, I will fuck them up. OP responds and says, he's had arguments with this family member too. I'm not offended about people asking about my dad. People are just trying to understand and provide advice. It's genuine concern and support. My dad has to pick his battles just like all of us. My mum demands we go for grandma's sake. My dad would have stopped going years ago, but my mum does it out of respect. My dad has also stepped up in other ways. 36 years ago, a military supervisor told my dad he was making the worst mistake of his life for marrying my mum. That he was just lonely and would change his mind once he moved back to the US. Taking a chance is bravery. Being in a multiracial family is bravery. I haven't experienced the adversity as others, but things happen. I just see things as a way to make me stronger. I've watched my dad step up so many times, it was my turn to do it. Defending my mum is everyone's responsibility. My mum allowed it to happen. I watched it my whole life. My dad tolerated it. Grandma watched it happen. My other family members watched it happen. There's no one to blame besides the person who's rude in the first place. Regardless, I appreciate people's perspectives and we should all step up when we can. Meeseek says you put some pompous assholes in their place. You can rest assured things have changed. They will be the ones biting their tongues now. I would have loved to have been there to watch their faces. They knew what they were doing, and now they feel bad that you made them feel ashamed. Good on you. What did your dad say? OP responded saying my dad was in the family room when he heard me yelling and was near one of my other aunts who said, "Oh shit, someone fucked up." My dad, to be honest, is emotionally drained. He's been wanting to do something else for years, but my mum, who's the kind of person, said she will keep going as long as grandma does it. So OP went on to edit this post, which says, Mum's reaction. On the car ride home, my mum expressed some words about my aunt, which she never does about anyone. She's always taken the high road. It's a very Korean Christian mum approach. My mum's method of being a pacifist is very much older immigrant / Korean / boomer approach too. It's taught me a valuable skill in life. I don't regret picking my battles, and that's why I'm so appreciative of being Korean / white. After we left, she gave me a very long mum hug. She didn't say anything and asked me if I wanted my favorite Korean dish. Where is my dad? He was in the other room. Yes, my dad could have done more over the last 35 years. He's gotten in arguments with everyone my whole life, including this aunt. We'd be fighting every year with someone new if we didn't pick our battles. We would have stopped going years ago, but my mum wants to go out of respect for my grandma. My dad is the only one who isn't petty about dumb shit. Defending my mum is everyone's responsibility, not just my dad, including my grandma, aunts, other family members and me. As soon as I got loud, my dad came into the room and stood guard. I can't describe it. There wasn't much for him to say or do because he didn't hear it. I was quick to unload and my aunt immediately walked away because she was embarrassed. My white side has a keep grandma happy approach, which is dumb. For years, my dad would be on the verge of saying things and my mum would demand that he didn't. Me? Reflecting on this as a whole, I can't believe the response. It shows you everyone has screwed up family in some way. After Thanksgiving, I started to speak to family one-on-one, which has had a good response. I have no relationship with this aunt. I should have pulled her aside, even as the nephew who's 30 years younger. A small part of me regrets it, and I will be glad to sit down with her still. If she's not willing to try or work it out like other people responded, fuck her. Please don't use my experience as a reason to blow up on anyone. I should have tried to speak, and I did what I felt was right. I don't regret it. Grandma's 80th birthday is in 2 months. I can't wait for that to be awkward. Someone made a comment that people can't be educated until you give them a chance to be aware of their actions, which is fair. Regardless, people will now think twice to be rude to my mum. Cheers and have a happy New Year's. Now OP gives us their full update, which says, I wanted to update the kind people who took the time to give me advice and affirmation last Christmas when I really needed it. I wanted to provide an update how Christmas and the year went. Long story short, I'm half Korean, half white. My family has always been rude to my mum and treats her as an outsider. Every year my mum brings over gifts for everyone and gets nothing in return. She never causes drama but gets treated like crap, and I think because of their own biases. My white grandma is 80 and the last grandparent alive. She is the only reason we get together with them. After 32 years, I finally blew up on a rude family member, my aunt who disrespected my mum with a few expletives. I blew up in front of the whole family, demanding that the behavior needs to stop. My actions ended Christmas because everyone left quickly after. I felt liberated for standing up for something I've been feeling for years. Last year, I was looking for advice on how to manage the fallout of what I did. Update. The year has been interesting. Immediately after Christmas, I sent an apology letter to my aunt. I went against some advice, but my letter requested to not let the situation impact the family. I left the lack of any relationship in her hands and shared everything can change if she gives my mum a little more respect. I decided to send a letter because she lives 3 hours away and I've never spoken to her on the phone for more than 30 seconds. I didn't think a phone call would help or fix the situation, especially after I blew up. After Christmas, I apologized to my grandma for what I did. I let my grandma know I sent an apology letter to my aunt. My grandma told me she is and always wants my mum to feel like she's part of the family. I could tell my grandma was on the verge of crying when she said that. My grandma told me blowing up was not okay, but understood why I did it. Hearing that felt really good. In regards to the letter, I got no response. My aunt denied ever getting it. We know my aunt got the letter because when my grandma confronted her about last Christmas, my aunt went into a rant about several things I mentioned in my letter. My grandma did tell my aunt what she did was wrong and she needed to change. In February, my aunt didn't come to my grandma's 80th birthday party. She told other family members that she didn't want to cause an argument, so she didn't want to come. My aunt didn't come to my grandma's on Mother's Day dinner because she supposedly had to work. My family didn't get together the rest of the year. Thanksgiving and Christmas came. Things are not perfect, but Thanksgiving and Christmas went really well this year. I was going to post after Thanksgiving, but the gathering was smaller than usual, and I wanted to see how Christmas went. During Thanksgiving and Christmas, everyone was very kind to my mum. It felt like everything shifted. Everyone spoke to her differently, and it feels really good. My mum got help in the kitchen for the first time ever. I know that sounds dumb, but my mum has always wanted to help cook because she loves to cook. It was the first time she didn't spend the whole day in the living room. At one point during Thanksgiving, my mum asked me to help her dry dishes. While we were washing and drying dishes, my mum was smiling the entire time. At one point, my mum stopped putting dishes away and randomly hugged me. We laughed and had fun the entire time. No one argued and no nasty remarks. My mum was treated as an equal and it felt really good. In regards to the aunt that I yelled at last year, she came late to Thanksgiving. So late, we were eating when she arrived. At Thanksgiving, my mum did initiate the first interaction with my aunt. She was not very conversational but polite to my mum. My aunt didn't look at me the entire time. When she arrived, I went to say hello, and she turned away and kept their distance the entire time. She basically stayed in a different room the entire time. She also left early and was the first to leave. The best part? I don't care. I apologized and left the future in her hands. If she treats my mum well, she will get nothing but respect in return. Christmas was as if nothing happened. My aunt didn't really talk to me, but she was incredibly nice to my mum. I'm okay with that. Both my parents said they have never seen my aunt so nice before. My mum got to help in the kitchen just like Thanksgiving. This year, for the first time, it felt like my mum was an equal in the family. Everyone was incredibly nice. No arguments, snide remarks, or drama. I regret yelling, but it changed everything. I think it put everyone on notice they need to change. There was a lot of questions and comments about my dad. The comments was hard to hear, but true. It helped me reflect on what my dad has/hasn't done. The truth is, my dad has been the glue of the family for years. He spends so much time being the middleman and trying to repair issues. At times, it's been at the expense of my mum. Regardless, my dad's lack of actions over the years doesn't make it right. Over the summer, I told my dad what I felt. I told him that I was disappointed in him and that his family has never been kind to my mum. I told him he should have done more. My dad didn't take it well, but he told me I did the right thing. My relationship with my dad is complicated. I know, though, I'm not going to make the same mistakes he has. We are different people, and I will do whatever is needed. If you're reading this and have a similar situation, if you have people or someone rude in your family, try to take a moment to sit someone down, hear them out, and try to do the right thing from the start. When you have the convo, stay calm. If they are not willing to hear you, then make it known. Blowing up could have gone either way, and I'm lucky it fixed things. Try to loop in other family members before or after so they understand your reasons and can back you for your choice. My post last year gave me affirmation what I did was right. Follow your heart, it might fix years of issues. Then OP comes in with one last little update which says, because of COVID, my grandma is in her 80s and in declining health. We don't do holidays together. In early 2021, my brother and sister-in-law moved back from Korea during COVID in 2020. We made Christmas amazing. My sister-in-law is from Korea and we made Christmas amazing for her. We make her a full member of our family. We haven't even seen my father's side. Now we do Christmas with just my parents, no extended family. My parents cook Thanksgiving and Christmas together. I feel bad my grandma celebrates with only one aunt who looks after her. In some ways, I've come to realize she contributed to the dynamics too. I truly love the holidays now. I'm now seeing someone and our families hang out. In some ways, my mum gets to be the head female for the family. She doesn't have to hide anymore. And this post turned up on the best of Redditor updates basically, so they compiled it and all this kind of thing. And someone said, OP is a very thoughtful man and his mother clearly deserves to be defended considering how well she raised him. And then OP came into that and said, "Hey, this is me. I'm so honored people repost this. I feel like it gives people hope to know everyone has shitty family. This year, my family is renting a cabin in the woods, cooking Korean/American food. No extended family, no drama. I'm sad we aren't really close to my extended family anymore. I've come to realize relationships have to be two ways. My grandma still gets together with some of the extended family, including my rude aunt, but they don't have anyone else. I'm okay with not seeing them anymore. Reflecting on this now, I'm good, but my mum still brings up we should do holidays with my dad's family if they ask. The rest of us are like, F that." My mum still makes us FaceTime with them, but that lasts 10 minutes. And it's one of those posts that I really, really do love, the way that OP keeps coming back and reflecting on past actions and explaining themselves about what they've learned. It's one of my favorite things about reading these stories. And hopefully this doesn't come across as patronizing or anything like that, because I really don't mean it in that way, but I was incredibly proud of OP for the way that they've dealt with things. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let's have one more little story, shall we? And this story comes from NoYouth6786, who says, "Am I the arsehole for snapping at my friend who keeps ditching me because I now have a child? Just over 2 years ago, I, female 29, unexpectedly got pregnant and now have a beautiful 18-month-old daughter, Kira. Over that time, my friend circle got considerably smaller, but my best friend remained, Mia, female 31. Mia doesn't have kids nor wants kids, but she has been brilliant with Kira. I'm a stay-at-home mum and obviously don't have as much time to hang out as I did previously. Mia and I live on the same street. We're in Manchester, England, and it's walking distance between our houses. I've told Mia numerous times that she can just pop in whenever she wants to. She works from home, but she rarely does. She did at the beginning, but it's been happening less and less. Instead, she keeps suggesting we go out for coffee or pizza or even a drink, but I don't have the time and I always tell her to come over and we'll have a coffee at my place. She asked if I wanted to go out with her and her other friends for a drink last weekend, but I said that no, but she's welcome to come over and we'll have a few drinks at mine. She said she already had plans and it felt weird to drink when she knows there's a child around. Honestly, I feel neglected. I feel like she put me on the back burner and doesn't want to be friends anymore. I'm always available, but she rarely comes over and I don't think that's fair. Today, I saw her photos from Saturday night out and I was fuming. She ditched me just so she could go and drink like she's 20 again. I felt rejected and horrible. I thought we were best friends, but she clearly doesn't value me when she won't have a few drinks with me at my house. When she finished work, she called and asked if I fancied going for a coffee to town. But I asked her to come over again. She said yes, but before she disconnected, I heard her mumble, "like always." This really annoyed me. When she came over, I decided to be open about everything. While not my proudest or most mature moment, I shouted at her that she's an awful friend, that she barely comes over, and if she doesn't want to spend time with me, to just say it and stop playing around. She said she's always been accommodating, but it's been 2 years and she doesn't want to spend time with me when there's always a kid, especially now that she has to watch her language. Mia likes to swear. I said that she knew I had a child and responsibilities, and she said that Tom, my partner, could take care of Kira once in a while so I could have time off. This felt really intrusive and I told her to mind her own business and not meddle in my marriage. I was really angry with her and kicked her out. She called me a selfish asshole on her way out. Normally I would expect her to call by now with apologies, but she hasn't done so, and I'm starting to wonder, was I the asshole or was she? Perhaps I was too harsh and should have been more careful with discussing it. And firstly, before I go into the comments, I just want to say I did look up that pronunciation for Kira. There was a couple of ways of pronouncing it, and I just ended up going with that one. Forgive me. But we're going to start with Hatham Ken, who says, "You're the arsehole. She didn't ditch you. She asked you to go out with her friends and she had made plans. She's not drinking like she's 20. She's drinking like someone who doesn't have a child. P.S. She's right. Your partner can look after your daughter once in a while, and should do, to try and bond with her." Funky Orange Penguin says, "You're the arsehole. You're always expecting her to accommodate you because you have a child. She's been coming over to your house for over a year because she understands your life has changed. You're putting in very little effort in assuming that it's on her to maintain the friendship and compromise. Why? Because you're a mum? She didn't ditch you. You've been a shitty friend for a while and she's probably done with you. And one more comment from Katana, who says you're the arsehole. You refuse to do anything outside the home. She asks you constantly. You're evidently working on being a helicopter mum. At some point you need to leave the home and do something without your child. It's better for both of you. And you ditched her, not the other way around. Now, there was pretty much the whole way through was a lot of you're the arsehole comments, but maybe you have a different opinion on the matter. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from Square Indication 29 and says, my stepdaughter ran away from the birthday party I threw for her. I, 35 female, have been married for 7 years to my husband, 45 male, who was a single father to my stepdaughter, Lucy, 15 female. Also, I have a son from a previous relationship, Toby, 10 male. In these 7 years, Lucy never recognized us as family, and when she introduces us, we are dad's wife and dad's wife's son. Birthdays are very important to me. Ever since Toby was born, I've thrown giant birthday parties for him. That didn't change after I married. My husband and I thought about doing it for Lucy as well, but she refused. She refuses every year, and everything related to her birthday is banned from the house. She is turning 15 this year. I decided to throw her a surprise party. We organized it with Toby. Invitations to her classmates, family and close friends, games, karaoke, catering and decorations. Not even my husband knew. I took the day off from work and Toby skipped school to fix everything. At night, my husband and Lucy arrived. They had dinner alone for her birthday, and we yelled, "Surprise!" They didn't look happy, but I assumed it was because of the surprise. My husband didn't say anything to me and Lucy disappeared almost immediately. I assumed to go talk to her friends. The party was amazing. Everyone had fun. The games were a hit and overall I had a great time. When bringing the cake to sing happy birthday, I called for Lucy, but she wasn't in the party. We looked for her around the house, but she wasn't there, and neither was my husband. After half an hour of trying to call them both on their cell phones, the mood got ruined and everyone left. The two returned after midnight and didn't feel guilty about leaving. I immediately asked them why they left. Lucy didn't say anything and went to her bedroom, and my husband told me to calm down. He explained that Lucy wasn't feeling well, so they went to the beach. I scolded him for not telling me, but he just shrugged and said, "You were too busy enjoying the party to notice," and went to sleep. I don't understand why they both disrespected me like that. I invested a lot of time and money in the party, and they haven't even apologized for leaving. It's been 3 days and the two act as if nothing happened. When I try to talk about it, Lucy looks at me like I'm crazy, and my husband doesn't call her out on it. I'm tired of her indifference. I threatened my husband to take Toby and leave if they didn't open about it, but he, surprised, shrugged and told me to calm down. I love them both, but this party disaster has made me believe it's not reciprocated, and I'm seriously considering getting a divorce. Now this one feels like a pretty simple one to me, is that she told you she doesn't like parties, she didn't want one, but you decided to throw a surprise party, and to me it just felt like it was more about you than her, because birthdays are really important to you. But I Suck at Golf says you are totally in the wrong here. You knew she only wanted to celebrate with her dad. You may want to see her as family, but she doesn't see you as family, and you can't force that on someone. You should really apologize to her, and also, you did this for you, not for her. Opie responds saying, I really thought a big gesture would make her get closer to us and want to celebrate as a family from now on. Lucy has said she wants to go to college in another state, and I'm afraid she'll never come back. Girl in red costume says in quotes, I scolded him for not telling me, but he just shrugged and said you were too busy enjoying the party to notice and went to sleep. He goes on to say, well, he nailed it. It was never about their enjoyment since you knew she didn't want a party. It was about yours since you like throwing parties so much. I bet you knew your husband wouldn't be okay with it. That's why you didn't share your plans with him. You're a grown woman. Do better. Aggravating patient says, OP, you threw the party for yourself, not your stepdaughter. She is not obliged to enjoy the party just because you went to all the effort of arranging it. Apologize genuinely and admit you made a massive mistake by not telling your husband of your plans. He would have told you it wouldn't be appreciated. Heck, I could see from your first paragraph. You had a great time and so did the guests. Lucy also had a good time at the beach with her dad. You were so wrapped up in your own pleasure you didn't even notice she was there. Now start to pay attention to where else you stomp over Lucy's boundaries and your relationship may start to recover. Or maybe it's the last straw for your husband too. Opie responded saying, I thought she had that attitude towards birthday parties because she never had a special one. And since my husband would never do something like that, I decided to do it myself. In my culture, turning 15 is very important. There were almost 100 people at the party, and I figured Lucy wouldn't want her stepmom stuck to her all night, so I let her be. Stepmom and dad says in quotes, I don't understand why they both disrespected me like that. And goes on to say they didn't disrespect you. You knew your stepdaughter didn't like birthday parties and you made her one knowing that. Not only that, but I believe you did it for yourself because if you had done it for her, you'd have noticed she wasn't around during the party. Say you were sorry, that you love her and you will respect her boundaries and keep the door open if she wants a relationship with you. Opie responds saying, I've been trying to follow this advice for years, but Lucy has never opened the door, and a part of me dies every time she ignores me or rejects my advances. She pushes me away when I hug her. To clarify, I don't mean disrespect for leaving, but for not wanting to explain why. And I admit that I got carried away at the party. I'm a party person, and I really enjoy them. And one more comment from Airy Puzzleheaded who says, you thought you and Toby were making a nice gesture celebrating a special birthday. Accept that they don't appreciate the thought and that is fine. Don't continue to chase after them not participating. I'd be more concerned that your husband has no interest in communicating with you. As a parent and a spouse, he should at least have some communication other than shutting you down. This would be the time as an adult for him to say, I/she, daughter am/is upset, surprised, etc. in response to the party. He has checked out of this marriage with you. Acknowledge, take your son and leave. It will be healthier for all. So then Opie comes in to update the post around a week or so later, which says, it's been a very difficult week and I thought I'd update you on it. I appreciate all the comments and they were helpful to me in realizing several things. The first is that the party was never really for Lucy. You see, this year I asked my husband to throw me a birthday party. I had high expectations and it turned out to be a small gathering with less than 10 people. No decorations and a supermarket cake since my husband started planning 3 days before. This party was a redemption for me and I admit it. The second thing is how intrusive I've been with Lucy. But I've been in that girl's life for 7 years. I watched her grow up and I love her, so it's not easy for me to see how she ignores me, how she rejects my son and the lack of love that she has for us. I apologized to her and she didn't say anything. 2 days after my first post, a woman called saying that Lucy didn't attend her therapy session that week. I asked my husband about it and he admitted that she has social anxiety, which made her uncomfortable being at a crowded party, so they left. That broke my heart. I asked my husband why he didn't tell me and he said, she didn't want me to tell you, so I didn't. I couldn't believe it. Last Friday, I got the bill for the party. It was more expensive than I thought, around 5 figures, and I discussed it with my husband. He couldn't believe that I spent so much and he immediately stipulated that he won't give me a penny since it was my idea and I did it without anyone's permission. We fought about it since I don't have that much and he was adamant. He told me that with that money, we could have renovated the house or have a family trip and it's my problem. Upon insisting, he said something along the lines of, we weren't even at your stupid party, so stop bothering me. We fought about it. I yelled at him that Lucy will never see us as family or see me as a parent if he acts like that. He said that he didn't marry me looking for a new mum for Lucy, and that if I keep trying to meddle in her business and doing stupid things, quoting the party, then we are done. Because he's sick of my stupidity and that I embarrassed them. That it was for me, so I took my son and we left. I haven't received a single call from him. I saw on social media that they went out to dinner. Lucy quoted a good family time and they both looked happy. It's clear that they don't care about us. Toby is inconsolable over all of this and so am I. My mum insists that I find a divorce lawyer, but I think I'm pregnant, not confirmed yet, and I don't want to raise another child with an absent father. Holy moly, when Opie said 5 figures on the birthday party, I know it's not the be all and end all of this story, but I was like, what? Over 10k on a birthday party? And I think there's going to be future updates on this one. Opie said that they think they're pregnant at the end and her mum is insisting that they find a divorce lawyer. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And I fancy something a bit different with the second story today. So I was looking at the malicious compliance subreddit and egrant03 says, can't remove the charge? Well, I'll just use it then. In the early 2000s, when I first moved out on my own, I rented from a complex that charged you for assigned parking. It was an upcharge of $25 a month. If you didn't get assigned parking, you'd have to fight for a space on the street. My apartment was in the back of the complex and I was getting over a recent knee and ankle injury, so I opted for the paid parking that was relatively close to my front door. My car was a junker, 3 years older than I am, but it ran semi-okay and the heater worked. As a newly minted adult, I was happy to have it. About 3 months into my lease, my car went to the great scrap heap in the sky. I'd gotten used to the local transit system and discovered a nearby store would drop off groceries for me. This was long before Walmart and other stores started doing it, so it was cheaper than figuring a month's supply on the bus. So I opted not to replace the car and utilize the bus pass my work reimbursed me for. I went to my leasing office and told them I no longer needed the space and would you please remove the extra charge from my bill. The manager at the desk was new and had never been asked that before. She promised to look into it and let me know. I was naive and figured it would be gone come next month. Nope, it was still there. I paid all but the parking space and called up the complex, same girl. She said she was awaiting word from the higher ups and offered me a credit for the charge as a one-time courtesy. I reminded her that I no longer owned a car. I hadn't just changed my mind. I told her that the space had been empty for close to a month now and that I won't be utilizing it. She said she understood loud and clear and would get it sorted by next month. 3 days before rent was due, she finally got back to me. Apparently, it was in my lease and couldn't be removed without breaking the lease and signing a new one, even if I didn't move out. The lease breaking and initiation fees would be charged to me, and my rent would go up to the new current market value. This would be over $1,000, so not an option for someone freshly on their own. I kept the parking space on the lease. 3 weeks later, I was reviewing my lease to get the phone number for maintenance and noticed the clause for the parking space. Essentially, I could park a motorcycle, scooter such as a Vespa, car, truck, SUV, or trailer in the space. Gears were turning. For me to be in compliance, I had to have wheels on anything parked in my space. So I went to my local version of Craigslist and found a wheeled container similar to a shipping container. It wasn't cheap, but it was worth every cent. The complex offered storage sheds as an upcharge too. Being fresh out of high school, I didn't have much to store. My neighbor though did. I threw a lock on the unit and offered it to my neighbor for half the cost of a shed, $35 a month. He was able to move his stuff out of his storage unit where he was paying over $100 a month, and the container was available 24/7, 365 days a year. He was happy for the arrangement and paid several months in advance. The complex put several tow stickers for out of compliance on the trailer, but I called the tow company and faxed them a copy of the lease where it says trailers are allowed. The container was registered with the county as a utility trailer, so there's nothing they could do. They tried to fine me for improper parking, but again, I had proof I was within my rights. They even offered to remove the charge for parking on my lease if I would relocate the container. With what my neighbor was paying, I could cover my water bill every month, so I declined. I stayed 18 months and sold the trailer to my neighbor when I moved out. He had to rent a car to relocate it to his assigned space, but he said it was worth the couple of hundred he paid. He ended up saving over $1,000 a year renting from me. Other neighbors even started bringing their own containers too, even if it meant getting a second space. Sheds were being vacated at a large volume. The complex tried to give them away as 6 months free. Few took them up on it. The complex amended the new leases to exclude trailers, but could do nothing about those that already had them in the spot. Instead of moving out and giving notice, renters would reassign their lease to new people so they could be grandfathered into the trailer clause. I drove by the facility 2 years or so after I moved out, going to a friend's for Thanksgiving. The complex had been sold to a new owner and changed their name, But wouldn't you know, there were still about a dozen wheeled shipping containers parked in the lot. Edits, there's some confusion and people are fighting. The trailer was small, think of 4 dog kennels in a 2x2 configuration. You could fit a table and chairs in there, but you'd still scrape the ceiling. It was in rough shape. This was back when the dollar store, not Dollar Tree, sold spray paint and I took care of repainting it myself. I negotiated drop off to the complex from the seller, and with the spray paint and delivery, I think I was out like $700. Keep in mind, this is not the massive 40-foot trailer picture I posted a few times as a reference. It's that style of trailer. Registering the trailer was super duper cheap, like around $30 and possibly even less. When I sold it to my neighbor, I got $300 or so for it. I took a loss, but without a car, I didn't want it, and he approached me first when he found out I was moving. There were a number of colleges and universities near where I rented. Most leases banned subleasing, but lease changeovers were commonplace. You go to the complex and tell management, I'm done renting here, but instead of breaking the lease, my friend is going to do the rest of my term. Usually didn't get the deposit back as it stayed with a new renter, but you didn't get an exorbitant pay a lease break fine. It also kept the apartment seamlessly occupied without tenant gaps, which most places needed. If they sold the trailer to the next guy or to their neighbor, I am uncertain. I wasn't privy to those decisions. All I know is 2 years later, they were no longer XYZ Complex, but under a different name, and a dozen or so trailers still remained. As for the 18 months I stayed, 1 year in a lease, 6 months at month to month. In my state, addendums to leases require you to enter into a new leasing term, and that was not going to happen. I don't remember if they charged a month-to-month fee if I didn't renew my lease, as it was close to 20 years ago. I've been month-to-month for 3 years at the place I've been living for 4. Some places charge 1, some don't. Rent can still go up, but changes to the lease that are substantial cannot take place until I sign a new lease agreement. I've had to look up laws and advocate for myself a lot because of BS like this. The tow company was mum and pop. They were not predatory, and I knew that multiple illegal tows could get their license pulled. The minute that first tow sign went up, I was practically shoving my paperwork down their face. No way could they play the ignorance card after that. They still exist to this day and now have multiple locations. In fact, they are assigned tower for my current complex too, ironically. Finally, storage sheds or units are required by my state to be month to month. It's a state law that goes back to at least the 1980s, and I have to memorize a lot of laws regarding storage for my job. So the apartment couldn't force anyone to keep their sheds, so my neighbor cancelled at the end of this month. Great guy, lived in a 3-bed with a set of twins, 1 boy, 1 girl. And I kind of don't get what they were expecting, that they're going to charge you for something you don't need anymore. You know, you ain't got a car, you told them this, you don't need it, but they're going to continue to charge you for it, and then they're surprised when you find a use for it and actually making some money on the side at the same time. And now they've ended up losing all this money every single month because they were too stubborn to just remove it the first time around. Wowzers. There was a lot of comments below that one saying, "Ooh, this gives me an idea. What has OP started?" Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's have another little cheeky story before we finish up. And our next story comes from Nico D. Mouse, who says, "Am I the arsehole for telling my producer/boss the way he's filming a commercial/indie film I'm working on is not going to appeal to young people? I will make this very short because my mum says I need to apologize. I say I was doing my job. She says since she got me the job, her ass is on the line too. I'm working as a PA for a director who is shooting a national commercial that will appear on YouTube. He has permission from his agency to shoot B-roll for an independent film he's working on while we're in prep for the main shoot. The trouble is he's like 60 and the commercial is for late teens, early 20s, and his indie movie is about a TikToker who is starting a band. The way he's shooting it sucks and no one is going to watch his ad, and his indie film is so nonsense. I gave him some advice on Friday and he was rude and he told me he didn't want to hear it. I repositioned some cameras yesterday and he said I fucked everything up. And then yesterday I told the actor that maybe if they slowed down a bit it would have more impact. The director said either I stop meddling and apologize or don't come back tomorrow. Today. I said he needed to apologize for swearing at me and making me feel unsafe. He told me to get off his set and don't come back. This is when I went and told my mum, and she said I was way overstepping and I needed to apologize. And if I want to stay working in entertainment, I need to realize I'm not an expert yet. I was trying to do my job, so I'm having a hard time understanding what I did wrong. Am I the arsehole? Now, as some of you may or may not know, my previous job before I was doing this whole YouTube thing was content creation as well. Not quite to the high level of directors or anything like that, but I was left to my own devices to work with photographers and videographers to make various videos for a company. And this just feels so disrespectful to me. I can't believe you touched the cameras. I was like, what the hell? And the only thing I can really compare it to myself is I remember one particular video I was working on, and I spent ages coming up with this vision for this one particular promotional video, like the shots that I wanted. I had this idea of shooting this machine like as one hole, then taking the side off it, but leaving the cameras in the same position. So, you know, you can fade out and you can mask in certain bits, like while the machine's working, so you could like have a hole in the side of it and see the machine working on the inside. And because the camera's in the same position, you can remove bits of the machine as the video's playing, kind of thing, if that makes sense. I spent ages coming up with like a storyboard for this particular video. And the videographer that I was working with that day was a different one from my usual one. And basically, he kept trying to overrule anything that I was saying. And he was saying, you know, I'm the videographer. I sort of know what's best. So maybe you should do it like this. And whilst, you know, as I said, I wasn't a director. I'm not high level position or anything like that. And I do appreciate advice sometimes, but the way this guy was coming across was trying to totally overrule everything and totally throwing out everything that I had written on this storyboard. And whilst I do appreciate someone with experience in videography, and obviously they've shot a lot of stuff, it wasn't what I needed at that particular time. And in the end, I said, can you just stop, please? I need to get this done, because it's wasting so much time as well. I later found out that my boss had several issues with that particular person anyway. But anyway, yeah. I'd find that incredibly frustrating what you was doing in this, and disrespectful as well. But Dwayne says, yeah, you're the arsehole. If you're a PA, your job is answering emails and organizing his calendar, not weighing in on his creative decisions, moving equipment from where he wants it, or telling the actors how to perform. Goth Penguin says you're the arsehole. PA doesn't mean tell the director or the actor what they need to do differently. It doesn't mean repositioning cameras or acting like you know more than the people around you. If you want to keep your job, learn your place. Fred replies that saying, gotta love the repositioning cameras bit. I'm not in the business, but my understanding is that absolutely nobody should do that on their own initiative, except the director. Not a grip, not a cinematographer, nobody. Grip, maybe, if there was a safety issue, I guess. The director's PA? Inconceivable. The director, I believe, would have been the cinematographer, and a grip do the actual positioning and related adjustments. Sorry, but I can't see any role for a PA in this process. By the way, my coffee is cold. Go get me a fresh hot cup, right? And one more comment from Fizzbang Wiz, who says you're the arsehole. Your job is to assist the director to execute his vision. Your job is not to make your own creative decisions or to give him advice. Your job is certainly not to give the actors direction. You are literally the least important person on the set, and your opinion carries no weight. That's what a PA job is. You acted like an arse and delayed production, so a natural consequence of that is the director yelling at you. You're the one who owes him an apology, not the other way around. He's already being kinder than he needs to be by giving you the opportunity to apologize and come back to work. A lot of people wouldn't bother. If you think you can keep your ego in check and do as you're told, you need to go back and apologize. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. Are you guys in this industry at all? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from a throwaway account and asks, am I the arsehole for refusing to split my inheritance with my siblings? I'll try to summarize as much as possible. I, female 19, have an estranged grandpa more or less. He's my dad's father, but my dad hardly had a relationship with him. I have two other siblings, one younger, 13, and one older, 26. My grandma divorced my grandpa when my dad was only 10, so he lived with my grandma his whole life in a different state and didn't see him. When he got older, he saw him a little more, and my grandpa started coming around a little bit more as well. He'd stay for a week at a time and then go home. He was an old, bitter man, to be honest. He never got remarried and lived his whole life in his coastal town with the same friends he'd had his whole life. He wasn't pleasant to be around and could hold grudges longer than anyone I've ever met. But regardless of this, he was filthy rich. He owned a successful business that he sold for $1 million. He He retired after selling, but his house sits on an island as well as the biggest piece of land on the island, so it sold for well over $3 million. I was never close with my grandpa, but I took after his sister, who is a registered nurse, and he adores her. He always told me that he was proud to see me follow in her footsteps. He died a few months ago. Since then, my family has been torn apart. He left everything to me. He essentially liquidated all of his assets, and it ended up being close to $8 million. I was shocked. I didn't and still didn't know what to do with the money, but I'm going to save it. My dad and stepmom, as well as my siblings, are hounding me to split the money with them. I just can't do it. My dad is an alcoholic who never said anything nice about his dad. Despite him being bitter, my grandpa actually bought my dad a $300,000 house. My dad would 100% drink away any money given to him. As far as my siblings, my brother has full financial support from my grandma, as he is the favorite, and he's very wasteful and ungrateful. He never talks to me and always is very mean to me when he does. My little sister is the only person I've actually considered. She's very young, and that's really the only thing stopping me. Her mum is money orientated and would take the money from her. So I'm waiting until she turns 18, and I offered to pay for her college. But now my family is telling me I'm unfair and the money doesn't belong to me and I'm not deserving of it. That I'm too young and I'll waste it on cars and clothes. I don't agree, and now they're all threatening to cut me off and never speak to me, or even sue me if I don't give them all a chunk of the money. I don't know what to do, and I'm buckling under pressure here. I've already had 2 police officers out to my house because my dad is claiming I stole the money from him. Everything was through an attorney. I know I did nothing wrong legally, but morally, I don't know. So am I the arsehole? And we're going to start straight away with some comments from Green Apple, who says not the arsehole. My God, these entitled people. If they want to cut you off for money that your grandpa willed to you, show them the door. Buy yourself a lovely home and move away from them. Pay for your sister's college and save the rest. Artsy Fartsy Fox says, not the arsehole. Your reasoning sounds very sound, and honestly, people will turn on each other when money is involved. I highly suggest 1. Getting a good lawyer. 2. Getting an accredited financial advisor so you can plan/save. 3. If you want to give your sister money, you can set up a trust for her. That way she can't touch the money until she is 18. Again, an advisor will help with this. 4. Tell people what you have on a very need-to-know basis. Friends and family can and will turn on you. I know this sounds scary, but I'd advise you to look up the history of lottery winners. In the meantime, take care of yourself. Be smart and do not overspend. That comment's number 4 there, where they said tell people on a very need-to-know basis. Friends and family will turn on you. And they said about lottery winners. I've just got, it's totally off the story, but when I've been driving, gathering Christmas stuff just recently, there's an advert that keeps coming up on the radio about the lottery and playing the lottery and what will you do if you win it. And you got these families on there that's going, oh, we'd have a massive street party. We'd tell everyone down on our street and we'd have a massive Christmas tree at the end of our cul-de-sac. Another one said that we'll invite all our extended family round to our house to announce it to them. And this whole time while I'm listening to these adverts, my palm is on my forehead going, oh, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. Anyway, back to it. Anne Jones says, not the arsehole. You do not owe them any money. Just because they are blood doesn't mean they are family. If you want to help your little sibling, put in a trust that only she can touch at a certain age. And pay for her schooling directly, just in case her greedy mum or dad try to touch it or talk her into giving it to them. Invest wisely and be happy. Your grandpa might be an old grumpy man, but he saw something in you. Liquid Dreamtime says you're the arsehole. Again, while I'm not surprised, I'm saddened by the outrageously selfish and entitled responses of the sub. Your grandfather was by all accounts a complete arsehole. So now you're claiming you are not the arsehole because you're doing as he wishes. Split it with your siblings and other grandchildren. Let his selfish favoritism die with him. Don't extend that legacy. If you're absolutely convinced your family is worthless and will squander everything, put a large sum into a trust that pays out $1,250 a month to each of your siblings and parents. This is the federal tax-free gift maximum and will set them up to never be unable to afford food and rent, so as long as they do the bare minimum of work. Edit. This could be set up in a way that they receive $15,000 a year for life. They won't be rich, but they'll never be homeless or hungry. You've been granted a gift that could allow you to take care of the people who matter the most to you, and you're being very selfish about it. Chicken Shit Loser replies to that saying seriously, she's maybe considering paying for her 13-year-old sister's tuition out of $8 million. Are you fucking kidding me? How can anyone read this and not think OP is at least a bit slightly an arsehole? I know this sub is ridiculous, but the amount of agreement on not the arsehole is astounding. Grandpa says fuck it and gives it all to her, and her instinct is to say fuck you to the rest of her family, and accept maybe her 13-year-old sister. She doesn't have to split the money evenly, but surely there is some form of reasonable compromise that doesn't involve her keeping 99 to 100% of the money. She got this money from family. She can give some back to her family. She's an entitled arsehole, and the kids here have the audacity to tell her, you go girl. Fuck off, Reddit. Llamas in the Wild says everyone sucks here. I think keeping all of the inheritance would be selfish. Your grandfather sounds very spiteful and manipulative, and he has fully consigned you to a similar lonely life as him. Your family are also being turds, but looks like they didn't have the privilege of being his favorite, so they got treated like shit. You can keep all the money for sure, but I would think about ways to help use that to heal the family rift. Like your dad is a wasteful alcoholic. Set up a trust with rehab as a condition of monthly income. Your sister. Cover her educational expenses, but you don't owe your stepmother anything. Otherwise, you're just going to be rich and lonely like the guy you inherited your money from. I'm not saying split it equally, but $8 million is more than enough money for a lifetime. You can definitely give something for your family members. So then, of course, OP did update their post, which says, first off, thank you to everyone for the advice, links, etc. It was greatly appreciated. It's been almost a month since my post, so I figured I'd try to update and clarify a few things. 1. My family and I have tried reaching out to my father to get him help. He's declined. Giving him money or even bribing him with money to get help wouldn't work like some of you suggested. It's already been tested, literally not even 3 months ago. 2. My brother is fully supported by my grandparents despite being almost 30, and they have never done anything close to that for me. Therefore, I didn't feel it was necessary to give my brother anything, as he had a very bad relationship with my grandpa, and only came around when he died. 3. My mother wasn't included in the story because I didn't think it was necessary. She has worked 3 jobs her whole life to support my brother and I because my dad was negligent and threatened her, so she never got child support. She's always supported us and provided for us, even though my dad has always made double the amount she has. 4. I didn't ask for his money. I didn't have any previous knowledge I was even in the will. I was upset when he passed because we had always been a bit closer than him and the rest of my siblings/family. 5. My grandfather bought my dad a very nice house. He didn't have to, but he did. My dad never said thank you. He doesn't keep it clean and doesn't take care of it. Simply, he doesn't deserve the money after everything that he's given/done for him. With all of that being said, here's what I've chosen to do. I set up an account for my little sister with enough money for a 4 to 6 year degree, a car and a down payment on a house. I donated a sum of it to the charities, bought myself a new car and put the rest away into CDs that I can't touch for another 4 years until I pay fees to withdraw the money. I plan to renew these accounts every few years or until I absolutely need it. Again, thank you to everyone. I was scared, lost and overwhelmed. I couldn't have done this without all the support and advice I was given. And now I'm gonna turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Do you think OP made the right choice in the end? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from a throwaway account who says, am I the arsehole for accidentally calling out a new colleague on lying about her language skills? Last week, a new colleague, Kathy, 33 female, started at my 25 female workplace. She instantly stood out in the team because she seems like someone who is very loud and assertive. 2 of my colleagues, me and Kathy, were having coffee in the break room. We were the only ones in there and we were sitting far apart when the subject of travel was brought up. My colleague said she wasn't booking trips anymore because it'd probably get cancelled because of COVID anyway. Kathy immediately cut in about how sad she is because she travels so often and she goes on these far exotic trips to Europe as a hobby. When I think exotic, I think the Bahamas or something instead of Europe, but cool. Kathy then jokes about how all of this no travel business is making her fear that she'll lose some of her foreign language skills. I asked what languages she spoke. She claimed to be fluent in 3 European languages, among which were French and Dutch. Kathy said she was at a native speaker level and went on about how people in Europe were always surprised when they found out she wasn't from there. I was excited because I never get to speak Dutch over here. I was raised in Belgium, which has 3 national languages, French and Dutch, which are my mother tongues and the most commonly spoken there, and German. It's quite common to be pretty fluent in at least 2 out of the 3 languages in Belgium because you're required to learn them at school, along with English, from a young age. I told Kathy, in Dutch, "Oh fun, we have something in common then." And she immediately pulled this sour face and asked me if that was supposed to be Dutch. I said yes. She laughed awkwardly and said she couldn't understand because I have a terrible accent and must not be that good at speaking it. Now see, I don't have an accent. I speak Dutch more fluently than I speak English. I told Kathy that I grew up speaking Dutch and speak it to my family all the time. She got miffed and asked what languages I speak and where I'm from. I told her I'm from Belgium, so I also speak French, and I added, "Which you just said you speak as well. Cool, we can speak French instead." I acknowledged that I was a bit of a dick here because by that point I knew she probably lied about speaking French as well. She then shoved her chair back and angrily got up, said whatever and stomped off. It was awkward. My other colleagues just kinda shrugged and said she shouldn't have lied. However, she later approached me and told me I embarrassed her by acting superior about my European heritage. I told her there was no way for me to know that she had lied about speaking those languages. She rolled her eyes and told me that I was immature. A colleague told me that Kathy had called me a little B-word who enjoys bullying new colleagues behind my back. I don't think I was a bully at all, but I don't want this to turn into a huge thing. Do I just apologize to keep the peace? Am I the arsehole? Now, absolutely not the arsehole in any way, shape or form to me. You didn't know she was lying about that situation, and it's on her because she's the one lying. We've seen this a couple of times within these stories about people lying about speaking second languages like this. I never understand what your end game is because eventually someone's going to call you out on it and you're going to look like an absolute fool. However, I think I would feel a little concerned about her language towards the end there where she's telling other colleagues that you're a little B-word who enjoys bullying new colleagues. If that information gets around and it gets to HR or whoever, you could potentially end up in trouble for something that you haven't done. So I sort of wonder if it would be a good idea to get to HR first and said this situation came up, I just wanted to raise it, but obviously I wouldn't like it to go any further. But quirky anxiety says not the arsehole. This is exactly why people shouldn't claim to speak languages they don't know. Eventually you will find someone who actually speaks said languages. It's not bullying to get excited about being able to speak your native language with someone else. Not Cleaver says not the arsehole. She deserved that to happen to her. Don't brag about skills you don't actually have. And for her to say that you had a terrible accent is beyond the pale. She owes you an apology, not the other way around. And several at that. She's the one who is acting like a bully. A well-meaning person would have said after your correction that you were born in Belgium. Well, I guess I have to work on it then. Still a bit rusty. Can you slow it down for me? Tom Club Thumb says, not the arsehole, you didn't call her out. She said she spoke a language and when you spoke to her in that language, she insulted your skills. So she created a situation where you pointed out that you are a native speaker. In your position, I would have spoken to her in French to push the point, but I am petty like that. You should not apologize. She tried to be snobby. You accidentally pointed out a lie and then she decided to double down. Messed that up and then trash talked you behind your back. I would totally speak to her in French and Dutch every time I saw her. The reluctant otter says, sing it with me one more time. Not the asshole. Of all the European languages to claim to be fluent in, Dutch would be one of the last ones. Years ago, I had Dutch co-workers who were trying to learn a tiny bit. Dutch is one of the hardest languages to pronounce. I swear my mouth has never moved in such complicated ways. For 3 months, the quickest way to reduce them to tears of laughter would be to try and say, oh god, I'm not even going to try and say that. Hell, people still argue over how to pronounce Van Gogh. Oh, I hope I pronounced that right. OP, you are a wonderful person and have absolutely nothing to apologize for. So, not the arsehole. Van Gogh, Van Gogh. I'm going to get in trouble for that one, I know it. So then first OP edits their post, which says edit 1. I'm not sure about escalating this to HR, which a lot of people have told me I have to do. I feel like this might make me look immature to the rest of my colleagues, of which I am the youngest, and it might not need to go that far. It depends on if Kathy is willing to put this behind her and be professional. If all else fails, I do have witnesses who would be honest about what happened. So I think I might be in the clear if she tries to twist the story. Edit 2. Some people have taken offense to me giving the Bahamas as an example of an exotic place and are trying to make this into a race issue. I didn't know exotic was an offensive term in the US. Do I think of the Netherlands, Belgium, England, Norway, which were countries she was describing as being far away exotic destinations, as my idea of an exotic trip? No. Not because there's a lot of white people there, but because when I think of exotic, I think of a place with nice sunny weather, white sandy beaches, and a blue ocean. Maybe it's because I'm from Belgium, but I don't really feel like being in my home country where it's dark and rainy all the time is quite that experience. Edit 3. Some people think she might not have understood me because she is fluent in Dutch, but learned it in the Netherlands, which has different accents. While it is true the Netherlands and Flanders have different accents, I didn't speak a very specific dialect like West Flemish or something. I spoke the general Dutch you see in the news in Flanders. I didn't speak quickly to try and make it incomprehensible to set her up. I genuinely believed she spoke Dutch because that's what she was saying, so I talked to her in normal, conversational Dutch. The same kind of Dutch I'd use in a work environment back in my home country. The same kind of Dutch I use with friends from the Netherlands, but with a soft G. Lol. So then OP comes in to update their post, which says, so a couple of months ago, things went down with a new colleague who was lying about her language skills. Many people gave the advice to go to HR. Others said not to go to HR because that would be escalating the situation. I decided not to go to HR right then, but I did take the advice to write down what happened, with the time and the names of the other colleagues present just in case. I thought the situation might blow over because Kathy was probably just embarrassed. Well, I was wrong. Kathy kept being cold to me, rolling her eyes at me in meetings and talking behind my back. Another colleague came to confront me at one point to ask why I'd been so mean. Apparently Kathy was telling a different version of what happened. Kathy said that I'd said mean things to her in Dutch and was making fun of her in Dutch, so no one else but her could understand. She was smart enough to only tell these stories to colleagues who weren't actually there for it. Word got around and it turned into a bigger issue, with a couple of people actually questioning my character, mostly just colleagues that don't work very close to me. HR got wind of it after a while and I got called in close to a month after the incident. I'd already met with Kathy and she told them she cursed me out in Dutch and was very mean to me story. I told them the full story and everything that happened after. They asked me if there was anyone else present who could confirm this. So those colleagues came and told them that Kathy had lied about speaking a language, stormed out and then started calling me a B-word, etc. to others. They thanked me for my time and I got on with my work. Nothing happened until a week later when I was informed that Kathy was asked to leave. Apparently Kathy had doubled down on the lies and told everyone I was the one lying, and she did speak those languages. So my boss told her in that case she'd have no problem talking to one of our Canadian colleagues, who wasn't involved in the situation, in French in front of him, just to confirm. At this point, Kathy admitted she had been lying. It turned out she didn't speak a word of French either, or Norwegian, which was the third language she was lying about. This was enough for them to let her go, because part of the reason they hired her was they were so impressed by her speaking multiple languages and work experience she had abroad. The work experience were made up as well. I'm just happy it's over. I'm confident it wasn't really my fault it blew up now. If it wasn't me who caught her in a lie, someone else probably would have down the line. A few people who kind of believed her ended up coming to me and apologizing for questioning me about what happened, so that's all sorted. Edit. Some people are asking why they didn't test our language skills in the hiring process. Our jobs don't actually require us to speak Dutch, French or Norwegian. I think they probably just saw it as a plus or something that made us stand out from other candidates. And what a bizarre thing for Kathy to carry on right till the very end. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from Bridesmaid Dress Throwaway, who says, am I the arsehole for kicking a girl out of my bridal party because of how sensitive she was being towards my ideas for dresses? I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I had to post it anyways. By the way, on a throwaway. So I'm getting married soon, 28 female, and one of the most exciting parts of the wedding for me are the bridesmaids and the dresses. I don't consider myself to be a bridezilla, but on my special day, I want everything to be as perfect and coordinated as it could possibly be. So about a week ago, I decided to invite my bridesmaids over so we could discuss dresses and stuff. Let's call the bridesmaid I had the issue with Joy. Before they came over, I already had a nice dress in mind. The dress was burgundy, form-fitting, cut a little above the knees, and had one shoulder strap. I thought it was gorgeous and very feminine for women our age. But Joy and a couple of the other girls weren't exactly comfortable, mostly because it was form-fitting, so I let it slide. I really wanted a dress that all of the bridesmaids would love and feel comfortable in, but they had to be the same. So the next dress was still burgundy, but it touched the floor, no slit, and it had spaghetti straps. Everybody loved the dress except for Joy, who claimed that she didn't want to wear the dress because she's insecure about her shoulders. Fair enough. At this point, I knew Joy was going to be difficult to work with, but I kept going because, again, I wanted to be accommodating. I think we went through 5 or 6 more dresses before the last one. The dresses that I showed the bridesmaid were modest in my opinion, and little things were what made Joy not want to wear them. The complaints she had were always something like, I don't like how the dress shows the shoes, my toes would be out, or my hair isn't long enough to complement those sleeves. Yes, I'm 100% serious. So the last dress I showed them was a floor-length burgundy dress, loose, had beautiful long sleeves, and the only thing that was keeping it from not being a burgundy maxi dress with long sleeves was the fact that there was a slit that came up to below the knee. It honestly was one of my least favorite dresses out of the ones I chose, but I wanted to try to be accommodating. Again, everyone seemed to agree with the dress except for Joy, who claimed that the slit was a little too provocative for her taste. After this, I was a little frustrated, so I just said we'd try looking at the dresses again another time. While the girls were leaving, I pulled Joy aside and explained that I don't think she'd be a good fit for my bridal party because this aspect of the wedding meant a lot to me and her demands were too nitpicky to be a part of the group. But I still wanted her to be a part of the wedding. She got upset and said that I was excluding her because of her insecurities. I said that I already tried to accommodate her by showing many different style dresses, but she didn't want to hear it and left. So, am I the arsehole? Edit, I am the one paying for the dresses. Edit 2, wow, this blew up more than I expected. I'm trying to read the new comments, there's over 300 which is crazy, and respond to the info comments, but if I missed it, I'm sorry. But I just wanted to respond here to some frequently asked questions and to make some clarifications. I wanted matching dresses because I've seen pictures and videos of weddings where the bridesmaids wore matching dresses and I fell in love with the look. I wanted a unanimous vote instead of majority rules because this is how I looked at it. Say all of the bridesmaids love this dress but 2 of them didn't, and I picked the dress anyways. I would feel bad if 2 of my bridesmaids felt uncomfortable the whole night because they were overpowered by the others. Joy is one of my friends from college. Yes, we are not the closest like best friends closest, but I still appreciate her, which is why I asked her to be a part of the bridal party. Just to put this out there, my bridesmaids aren't the same, but there's no striking differences that would make me say, wow, these girls can't pull off the same dress. What I mean by that is that I don't have overly tall girls, overly skinny girls, girls with boobs that can't support a certain dress because they are too big. You get the rest. Also wanted to put this out there. I didn't choose my bridesmaids because of their body type to match my same dress aesthetic. Just saying that because I feel like someone would accuse me of it. That's just how it was. And edit 3, oh, I forgot to add in something addressing the shawls. I did kind of bring this up while we're looking at dresses, but there were 2 issues with Joy. The first one was that she would veto the dresses no matter what. The second one is that some of her issues didn't even have to deal with anything a shawl would fix. For example, she had a problem with slits, no matter how small, as we saw the last dress. She would also not care about the shawl and veto the dress entirely. And we're going to move straight to the comments with Vendetta, who says, I was a bridesmaid and the dresses my cousin picked for us were strapless. I'm the same as Joy. I hate baring my shoulders because they're kinda wide and lots of acne scarring from puberty. And she wanted our hair up, so no covering the shoulders with my hair. Also, it was a January wedding and she wanted all the bridal pics outside. Know what I did? I wore the damn dress because the day wasn't about me and I really didn't need to look a certain way for anyone but the bride. I totally get feeling majorly insecure, but I understood it was my job to be a bridesmaid for my cousin. It was one day and pictures can be edited. You gave her lots of choices, sacrificing your preferences to help everyone feel comfortable, and she still made it about her. You even wanted her to still come to the wedding, and she could wear whatever she wants then. If she has so many insecurities about her body, she should have had the foresight to not agree to be a bridesmaid, because ultimately it's up to you what you'd like them to wear, not the arsehole. Gobbling Hamster says, not the arsehole, you've tried to accommodate her. You aren't excluding her at the drop of a hat. You tried about 8 dresses and she hasn't liked a single one, and she's the only one with a problem. Her complaints don't seem to be major issues. It's a bridesmaid's dress. It's not going to look absolutely amazing on her. Bridesmaids' dresses are for the bride. Most people wear them to support their friends and family. If she can't compromise, she's not going to fit into your bridal party. Hurlt says, possibly no one's an arsehole here. Bear with me. You've tried to work with Joy, but she won't work with you. Your feelings are understandable, and the fact that some of Joy's complaints were over really tiny things suggests that this is a matter of vanity rather than insecurity. But it's possible that Joy has some serious problems with her appearance and that she genuinely would feel uncomfortable in all those dresses. Rather than kicking her out of her role completely, I wonder if it might help to have a conversation with her first about why she's so self-conscious. Maybe you could reassure her that you think she looks gorgeous in whatever she's wearing, or ask her if there's something else going on in her life that's bothering her. You may be able to salvage this situation if both of you are willing to be open and frank with each other. I mean, she might just be an arsehole, in which case you're better off without her in the wedding altogether. But you won't know unless you ask. Lozif says, going against the grain, but you're the arsehole. You asked for opinions, you got them. One of them didn't like any dresses and you went nuclear and booted her out to your wedding party. Why didn't you put on your adult pants and talk to her first? Explain that you're trying to get a dress that everyone's comfortable with, but she keeps rejecting every one. You need a dress for the bridesmaid, so find the one that she's most comfortable with. Your wedding isn't going to be perfect, and based on this reaction to someone given and asked for opinion, you're on your way to being a bridezilla. KMS says you're the arsehole. If you asked her to be in your bridal party, I'm assuming she's either family or a close friend. You essentially just let a dress get in the middle of your relationship. You invited them over to discuss dresses. That would warrant a discussion on what they all want to wear. If you don't really care how they feel, then just pick a dress and say, this is the dress, order it by XX date. You kick the friend out of your bridal party over her being honest about the style of dress she likes. Let that sink in. Pick a color and give them some parameters and let them hunt for a dress they like with you to be able to veto dresses. Weddings with bridesmaids all wearing the same dress are overdone anyway. I say that as someone who had all her bridesmaids wear the same dress. Not every single style looks good on everybody. Ultimately, weddings don't matter, my wedding didn't matter, marriage matters, and my relationship with my friends and family matters. You possibly just ruined a friendship over a bridesmaid's dress. Good job. You're the arsehole. And one more comment from Honky Tonky Highway who says, leaning towards an everyone sucks here. Haven't been on both sides of this. A bridesmaid wearing a dress I hated and a bride who wanted my girls to be comfortable and happy with what they were wearing. Note, on both occasions, dresses have been bought by the respective brides. I feel like Joey could have been more tactful, but I would also say the same for you, OP. Did you ever ask your bridesmaids what they had in mind or what they would have been uncomfortable in? Could you have come to a compromise and let the girls wear different dresses in the same colors? There's lots of different routes you could have taken to come to a compromise before kicking her out of your bridal party. So then OP did update the post, which says, so I had an overwhelming response on my post about asking if I was the arsehole for kicking a girl out of my bridal party for being sensitive about dresses. And I got a lot of not the arsehole, everyone sucks here. And I could see both sides. Understood that I could have handled it better. And I was glad to see a lot of people also believe that Joy was being a lot to handle. Anyways, I decided to take your advice, and here's an update on the situation for anyone that's interested. So, after reading a ton of your comments, I decided to call Joy and invite her over to talk. Luckily, she said yes. By the way, before this, she didn't say she didn't want to be at my wedding, so she was still planning on becoming a guest. And I apologized for kicking her out with no warning, but I laid out my frustrations. She apologized for being really picky about the dress and realized that the attention wasn't going to be on her and it wasn't her day, so it wasn't really appropriate for her to get upset over fine details on the dress. She also revealed to me that this was going to be her first time being a bridesmaid. She doesn't usually wear dresses, she's more of a leggings and sweatshirt type of girl. I took some of your guys' advice again and asked Joy to show me a couple of dresses online she would be comfortable with. Didn't matter what color, I just wanted to see her style. And she searched for about 10 minutes and couldn't find one that she loved. She kind of looked bummed and a little apologetic, so I came up with a plan. The official dress shopping day for the bridesmaids was the next day, and I invited Joy to go with us to get a feel for the dresses to see if she would be comfortable, and she agreed. So the next day, my girls and I met up at a dress place, tried on a couple of dresses, and Joy didn't really like them, even though my other bridesmaids did. Finally, we tried on the fourth dress, which was the one. The girls fell in love with it, and I looked at Joy and she was staring at herself in the mirror, but she had a smile on her face. Bloody onion ninjas. I came up to her and told her again I didn't mind if she wore a shawl or cover up some moments, and she nodded and smiled again. Actually, one of my bridesmaids, who didn't really know about the situation, came up to Joy and told her how gorgeous she looked in the dress. I'm not gonna lie, I shed a couple of tears because they all looked so beautiful. So we found a dress that was matching and all the girls were happy with, and Joy is back in the bridal party. Hope that this was a happy ending that everyone enjoyed. Now for me, I have to go plan other parts of the wedding with my fiance. And then there was a picture that's similar to the dress. I don't think it was the exact same one, but it's similar to the dress. Edit 2, and thank you guys for all the rewards. I just wanted to say a little bit of communication can go a long way. I will admit that I was very stressed when helping my bridesmaids with the dresses, but having a simple conversation saved my friendship and my bridal party. I'm so happy. And I gotta tell you what, it doesn't take much for me these days to get a tear or two coming out. Just the thought of Joy stood there, seeing herself in the dress and, being really happy with it is just, I think it's a real powerful thing and a really lovely thing too. And I gotta admit, right or wrong, in the first part of the post, I was very much verging on and not the arsehole because of how OP was so accommodating and, trying on several dresses to try and get her friend, Joy, to be happy, and it just didn't work out. So I thought at some point, you just got to cut that off. But as the comments went on, they were swaying me towards a no one's an arsehole here, especially when they are talking about body insecurity and Joy being a friend. If I was in sort of OP's situation, after reading all the comments and stuff like that, I think that's my friend. I don't want them to feel insecure while at my wedding. Right or wrong, I know everyone's going to have their own opinion on that because the comments in this post were very all over the place. But I'm very, very glad they did have their happy ending in the end. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, I've had to come back after reading this story, and I just want to give you a warning in case you do want to skip it, especially if you're eating. This story contains animal abuse to do with hoarding and also child abuse as well. And our next story comes from My Spouse is a Pet Hoarder, who says it's 6 a.m. and the roosters have been crowing non-stop for the last 2 hours in our sunroom, adjacent to our bedroom. I'm now sitting in the basement as flies swarm around me, and I've given up swatting them because there's too many to bother. The basement is the area of the house with the least amount of flies. On top of the rooster noise is the cackle of male quail that reside in our living room. They live in the base of 3 cages that are filled with budgies and a cockatiel. When I wake up and I remember to put on my slippers and I hope to get to them before stepping in dog urine or fresh dog shit. Our carpet in our master bedroom is saturated in dog urine with many spots that haven't dried out yet. Yesterday, my wife bought our daughter a new tortoise and a frog. The tortoise will be added to the aquarium with our bearded dragon. The bearded dragon, which is often free to roam the house because my wife feels it will be happier. It is free to poop on our furniture or floor or where it was left out last. As I sit here in my basement, the one place where I do not allow any pets, I'm listening to a rabbit thumping its paws on the floor above me, or the sounds of it biting and ripping apart our wall or furniture. I'm not sure which noise it is, but I don't care anymore. We have at least 6 rabbits. Their little claws make a loud scraping and tapping noise as they scurry and hop across our laminate floors. The main level of our home is littered in rabbit droppings. The droppings get pushed to the side as our 4 children and us inadvertently kick them around while walking through the main level of our home. The dogs won't likely get let out this morning to go to the bathroom. The smaller dog doesn't even obey the command to go out anymore. He just stares at you confused by your directive. If he does go outside, he just comes back to find a place to shit and pee in one of our bedrooms. Our backyard doesn't have much dog shit because it's mostly in our bedrooms. It will stay there for days on end because there is no expectation that it shouldn't be there. The new smell from the giant rug I bought for the basement has worn off. It smelled like glue and dye, and it drowned out the odors from the dozen chickens that reside in our family and living room. They live in a couple of 36-inch fabric pop-up enclosures filled with pine shavings. It is saturated with chicken shit and urine and has soaked into our oak wood hard floors, permanently damaging them. The stench is eye-watering. We have a lot of feathered friends here. In our master bedroom are 3 more cages with a variety of exotic birds that sing loudly all day long and leave a permanent mess of seeds on the floor around the cages. They are free to roam, and so our room has droppings along our beds, headboard, and on our pillows, along the sides of the doors where they perch, in our bathroom mirrors, and down our shower curtains. Our sunroom has 30 plus chickens, and about 8 or 10 of them are roosters, and the roosters crow all day. This is where the flies breed. They come in through the 40-year-old sliding door that is often left open. This door separates the sunroom from our living area and our kitchen. The flies swarm in at any given time, and there are dozens of flies in our living space. The heat and humidity bake the sunroom floor, which is covered in chicken shit and urine, and the odor spreads through the house. Our house is a suburban neighborhood. We do not live on a farm. In addition to these animals, we have 2 pet rats. They are sweet, but as you expect, their cage is not well maintained and it stinks 90% of the time. Our boys has a snake and an axolotl aquarium. One of our daughters has an algae-covered fish aquarium that we fill with water whenever we hear the filter screech because the water evaporated too low. She also has an unkept cage with a hamster that is rarely played with. Right now, I'm listening to the mice eat through the foam board insulation in my basement. I want to get rid of them, but it's challenging with all the access to feed throughout the house. They seem to be breeding and entering through the home at a faster pace than they can be exterminated. I'm not a pet person, and this life is driving me nuts. My wife is a pet hoarder and has ADHD. Our backyard is a ghost town of quail cages from last year when she was really into quail breeding, and we had over 150 living in our backyard. Now there remains broken and half-built cages and mounds of shavings and wood chips that intended to be used as bedding. Scattered in random places in our backyard are household garbage bags of chicken shit. When you try to lift them, they fall apart because they weigh 30 to 40 pounds and the bags have deteriorated from the sun. When challenged, she seems to delight in the frustration it causes me because she is not happy in our marriage. It seems that accumulating animals is bringing her little bits of dopamine with each acquisition. I'm tired of living like this and I don't know what to do. Our children think this behavior is acceptable and they often chide at me for not being on board with the animals. They say I'm not a pet person. It's true that I'm not actually a pet person, but what we have going on here is irresponsible, unsanitary, and illegal. This is pet cruelty and normalizing neglect of animals. Edit, people think this is a shitpost, but it's real. I'm not uploading pics for privacy, but it's genuine. I wrote it in this style to express everything because it's distressing and aggravating and I haven't expressed it to anyone. I'm seriously asking for advice. It's slipped out of control. The amount of pushback from my wife when I address the problems creates a lot of tension and distresses the children. She just keeps bringing home animals. The last time I threatened to rehome the chickens that she was keeping in the house, she became extremely angry and combative. She rehomed them, but not after a slew of insults and claiming that I was being totally unreasonable. Then she just slips back into the same behaviors because she never believed it was a problem in the first place. We've had a company come to our house, but no one has called CPS or animal control yet. Seeing all these reactions has made me realize just how bad it is from an outside perspective, and a CPS call is a serious possibility, and that is terrifying. An OP did update their post 1.5 years later, which says, "Some of you may remember my post venting and looking for advice on what to do in regards to an extreme animal hoarding situation with my wife. Dozens of chickens residing in the home and a variety of animals roaming outside of cages in the home, feces and a rampant mice infestation. After posting, I sought therapy and started getting my bearings straightened out. In the midst of setting firm boundaries and beginning the work to clean up literally 2 tons of chicken shit, sand and pine shavings and resolving the rodent problem, a call to CPS was made by a third party and an investigation ensued. Believe it or not, by that time, much of the situation was resolved. Animals rehomed, home cleaned and sanitized. Nothing came of the CPS investigation and it was pretty quickly closed out. However, the relationship was essentially permanently damaged as my wife continued to deny the problem was out of hand. Deep resentment developed towards each other. Fast forward nearly 12 months and my wife requested a divorce. We are now separated, awaiting official legal divorce. I have moved into a very nice home and have the kids 50-50. My physical and mental health has dramatically improved. My kids now have an organized and clean haven. They seem happy. It seems inevitable she may lose custody of the kids at some point altogether. I'm hoping she can keep things in check, but due to the constant denial that there was a problem, it will most likely repeat. I may have no choice but take steps to ensure the children's safety at some point, further disrupting the children's lives from their otherwise loving mother. Limitations on pet quantities and cleanliness standards are written into the divorce settlement agreement. By the way, wife has been in therapy for a couple of years in the midst of hoarding. I guess you could say the therapist was either not savvy to the situation or enabling to an irresponsible level. I'm leaning towards the latter. She became more and more emboldened that I was causing her problems as opposed to looking forward. The therapist seemed to fuel the delusions as far as I could tell. Anyway, thanks for all your advice and getting me to wake up to the madness I contributed to through inaction. There was a guy when I was younger, round the area, you guys know that, and I didn't know him myself, but there was a story always going around. I was too young when he was about, but we call him Albert, and he was one that used to like to collect chickens, and we used to live in flats, so there wasn't much of a back garden, if anything. And no one was sure where he was getting these chickens from, but he would keep them in their back garden, but they could scale the fence and they would go into other people's garden and they were making so much noise and dying and the bodies were just left on the floor. And people were reporting this and get sort of animal control of whatever coming round to check on it and they wouldn't do nothing. They'd give them a warning and say, you need to rehome some of these chickens and we'll give you like a month to do it. And then he'd rehome some and then when that was done, he would just get more. And it was just like a constant battle like that. I think eventually he did get moved out of the area. But like this post, apparently the whole area just stunk of shit and maggots and stuff where the birds were dying and things like that. Which is incredibly sad. But now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from Business Cautious 5392 and says, am I the arsehole for requiring my sister to sign a legally binding contract before I loan her money? Throwaway account. I, 42 female, have a successful career and inherited a decent amount of money from my late husband. I'm nowhere close to being a millionaire, but it's enough so that as long as I'm smart with the money, to only work because I want to and I'm assuming retires in there by the time I hit 45. That's including any college expenses my 2 children may have in the future, so long as they go to state college. Family knows that I have money, and while I don't mind giving a couple of $100 here and there, because I know I most likely won't get it back, I draw the line at anything $400 plus. They know this, but that still doesn't stop them from trying, and I've always stayed firm on this. But once the pandemic, my brother-in-law, 35 male, lost his job, and my sister's 37 female job have reduced her hours until further notice. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from my mother asking if I could come over. I had no problem with this and swung by the next day and found my sister already there, and I could tell she'd been crying. Based on the title, you all know where this is going. So with me, her, and both our parents, then my sister informed me that even though her job was expected to go back to regular work hours in early 2021, there was a rumor that they would be downsizing. She wasn't sure if her job would be secure, and brother-in-law still hasn't found any luck in getting a new job yet. I knew what they wanted and tried to play dumb at first and offered to help find brother-in-law and my sister jobs. My sister said that was very generous of me and she would take the offer, but in the meantime, what they really needed was a loan. My sister asked for at least $40,000 to help with paying off their credit card, manage the mortgage, make payments towards their student loans again, and still have some money left over in case the worst happened. I was quick to tell them that they were asking a lot from me. That while I did have some money, I didn't just have $40,000 laying around to give them on a whim. I told them I'd have to check my finances and think about it. After 2 days, I started getting inquiring texts from my parents and sister and told them that I was busy this week and that I'd let them know over the weekend. I checked the numbers and it was cutting it a little close, but it was doable. However, I didn't like the idea of just giving the money away without any reassurances that I'd get it back. I drew up a rough draft of a contract and emailed it to my sister, and I was willing to give her the money after she signed the final draft, and that the money would have to be given in 3 separate installments. My family was furious and said that as the older sister, it was my duty to look out for my sister in a time of need, and to make her sign a contract was offensive. I countered with that since my sister has never paid me back whenever I loaned her money since the day I married my husband. I think this was more than fair. Everyone is still angry with me, so I just wanted a more neutral perspective. Am I the arsehole? OP then edits the post with some additional information which says, "Wow, stepped away for a couple and I wanted to say thanks for the support. Also, I keep seeing a few of the same questions pop up, so I'm going to clarify and mention a couple of things. My sister and her husband can't get a loan from the bank, or at least not much, because their credit isn't the best right now. To my sister and brother-in-law's credit, they did have some savings but are burning through it since my brother-in-law is currently out of work, and my sister doesn't work enough hours right now. Also, they have kids. After I got married, my sister started making little jokes that, compared to what my husband makes, what's a few couple of dollars to family every now and then? Over the years, I gave my sister at least $2,500 that she never paid back, and I just stopped counting after a while because it would get me upset. I just made a habit to stop giving her money. Although I would still pay whenever we went out to restaurants, the movies, or the spa. Edit 2. Okay, had to step away again for personal stuff, and when I checked, I saw even more responses, all talking about how I would collect money if my sister either refused or couldn't pay me back. I left that part out because I wanted to focus on just the idea of the contract itself, rather than the technicality part. As previously stated, I emailed my sister a rough draft of the contract and was planning on having it notarized so that it was official, but as collateral, I would take ownership of her and my brother-in-law's cars if they couldn't pay. Hope that clears a few things up. Absolutely not the arsehole at all, because I just can't see you getting that money back. And whilst I think it's incredibly kind of you to lend family money in the past, the $200 here and there that you said, I think that you've been taken advantage of by them. Well, you have, let's face it, because they haven't paid a penny back. I know for a fact any of my brothers or my family lent me any money, that would be on my mind until they got every single penny back, because otherwise it's just taking the piss. They haven't paid you back in the past, they got bad credit for a reason, and I'm not playing down, I know this could have been down to just a bad run in life, but I gotta say it does feel to me like they are taking advantage of OP in this particular situation. And they're kicking up a fuss now about a contract because they know it's unlikely you're going to be paid back. Sure, there's a chance they might think they're going to do that, but then other things get in the way. They still might not have jobs or the hours once they've burned through all that money, and then they're in the same position again, potentially borrowing from someone else or asking you again, and then you're very unlikely to see that money ever again. And don't get me wrong, no one likes to see family struggle, but I think they are taking advantage of you. But a deleted user says, holy heck, that's a lot of money. I wouldn't loan them that at all, contract or no. They seem to have a problem with their finances, and while I think they could be shown compassion, $40,000 is a line that should definitely not be crossed, especially if they're still in debt to you. Not the arsehole, and don't let them guilt you into harming yourself for their gain. Stop hitting myself says, not the arsehole. It looks like they had no intention of paying you back. I think you need to come up with a more realistic number. You don't need to pay off their student loans, especially as they might not be making enough currently to have to pay them anyway. Ask them about their mortgage and possibly organize payments directly to the provider. With that written contract, express how you are hurt by the emotional blackmail and say you feel that you're being punished because you're a young widow. Your duty is to yourself and your children first. Meal Team 60 replies to that and says, aha, you are British. I can tell by both organize and the fact that you think their student loans don't have to be paid if they aren't earning. Here in the greatest country in the world, you have to pay off your student loans no matter what. You could be homeless or dead, and they'll still come after you or your family. Cheerily Terrified says not the arsehole. Mortgage and food, sure, but if they're asking for money to pay off student loans and credit card debt and also have a contingency, then well, I'd say no. But I'd definitely ask for a contract, especially if they don't pay you back. If your family are that appalled, then they can take the credit card and student loan payments for you. And one more from Curly Tomato, who says not the arsehole. How dare they behave like that? Your husband died. I'm very sorry for you all, and the money he left was to make sure that you and his children would be okay, because he wasn't going to be there to do that. Once it is gone, it is gone. It's all on you. Unlike your sister and brother-in-law, who are both able to contribute to the family. If anything, it is your parents' duty to look after their daughter, not her sister. Not supporting you is what is offensive. They are assholes. And what exactly is the emergency? They want to pay off their credit cards and have leftover money in case. Well, so does most of the world, and how does everyone do that? Not take your sister's money, that's for sure. I bet they would use the emergency fund for a big trip or a big TV because they had a hard year and deserved it. Wouldn't pay you back a dime and treat you like you did something wrong. Tell her you changed your mind. She doesn't have to sign the contract. You were wrong. You were not lending the money to them at all. So then OP did update the post, which says thanks to all the wonderful and helpful comments. I won't lie, familial pressure / guilt was getting to me a little because I realized how fortunate I am. I also wanted to apologize for downplaying my socio-economic status. I just have been living beneath my means for so long, I sometimes forget how fortunate I truly am. I just wanted to show my children the importance of being financially responsible and rarely ever splurged. In the end, I contacted my sister and brother-in-law for a sit-down. Public, so they couldn't cause too much of a scene, but private enough so we could vaguely discuss sensitive information. Plus, there was the social distancing. I simply did a basic laydown of the situation. I told them that I needed them to hear everything I had to say first, and if they interrupted me, I would walk away and not lend them a cent. First, I told them that it is good to help family when you can, but couldn't give them $40,000. I am able to offer them $3,200 a month for at least 6 months. I told them that I simply cannot afford any more without it affecting my kids, and that I am a mother before I'm a sister or a daughter. I also told them that I can't afford to bail them out every time they're in trouble, and that since the future is so uncertain, I may not always have the means to care for others. My money is going to have strings attached, and if they didn't like it, they could go somewhere else. I made it clear that I wasn't doing this to be mean or controlling, but I want to help my sister help herself. The rules were: A. The money would be deposited in a new joint bank account with one authorized signer. B. My sister and brother-in-law were going to meet with a financial advisor, which I would pay for. C. Since neither of them are working, it doesn't make sense to have 2 cars, so I expect them to sell one of them, and then our parents can let my sister or brother-in-law use one of their cars when they need it. D. Before they can get the first payment, they'll be having their meeting with a financial advisor, and I will be in the meeting just so I know they went. I made it very clear that this is the best that I could give them. They looked upset, but I told them that beggars can't be choosers. They said they'd think about it. I knew that my sister was going to cry to our parents, so I called them as soon as I got in the car and told them everything. I said I'm not changing my mind, and that if they feel my sister needs more than what I'm offering, they're more than happy to downsize and sell their own home or take out money from their own retirement and SSI, since family helps family. If there's an update, I'll put here as an edit. Edit for info. I keep seeing this, just so we're clear. The $3,200 a month is going to be a gift, and I told them that. I don't expect to ever see that money again. But I'm never going to give my sister and brother-in-law another cent after this, and I'm prepared to go low contact / no contact with her over this. I know my parents will never go low contact / no contact with me because I'm their first choice when it comes to taking care of them when they're too old to take care of themselves. Edit for info too. Forgot to mention that I don't really want sister and brother-in-law to sell one of the cars. It's just my way of putting pressure on brother-in-law to get a job. Any job. He has a master's and was making, I think, around $75,000 at minimum, and now he wants a job in the same field making the same amount or more. If we weren't in a pandemic and he didn't have so much debt, I'd understand him wanting to hold out for something better, but right now you gotta do what you gotta do. And I gotta say, my head dropped a bit when she said, The $3,200 a month is going to be a gift, and I told them that, and I don't ever expect to see that money again. And then OP talking about their parents and saying that I'm their first choice when it comes to taking care of them when they get too old to take care of themselves. And I'm just like, oh my word. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Try, who says, am I the arsehole for not allowing my daughter to spend Christmas with me and my new family? I, 46 female, am the mother of a 24-year-old woman from my first marriage and 12 and 10-year-old boys from my second marriage. When I was married to my first husband, he was unemployed almost all of our marriage. We lived in a house his father owned. His father paid our bills. He bought us the car we drove. He sent my husband money to take care of our family, etc. I was young, stupid, and in love. That is my only excuse for living like that. When my daughter turned 5, I started pushing my husband to work. I myself got a job. He didn't want to. Things escalated and ended up in us getting divorced. He got full custody while I got visitations every other Saturday. His dad hired a good lawyer. I couldn't do that. I also had to pay child support. I used to work a full-time and 2 part-time jobs to afford my 1-bedroom apartment, as well as the child support payments. A year after our divorce, my ex married a new woman. There was a lot of child alienation from them, and sadly, I couldn't afford to take them to court again. By the time my daughter turned 14, she was calling me by my name and calling her stepmom, Mum. I tried my best to hold on to my kid. I went to all the events I could go to. I planned fun days with the limited funds I had. Even when I couldn't afford to turn on the heat, I still made sure to get her a Christmas gift. Sadly, by the time she turned 16, she no longer wanted to have anything to do with me. I took them to court, but they did nothing. And the last time I saw her, she said some very awful things to me. I was defeated, but I decided that I no longer had a daughter, since that is literally what she wanted. I moved away, met a good man, married him, and had 2 wonderful kids. Last year, my daughter reached out. She was sorry. She said that she wanted to reconnect. I was hesitant and resentful, but I still talk with her once a week. Suddenly, she asked if she could spend Christmas with us. She wanted to get to know her brothers. I told her that we were not in a stage where I could allow that. It got heated, but I told her that I could not trust her with my kids and that I was still not 100% sure that I wanted our relationship to become more. She says that I am an arsehole and I'm punishing her for things she had no control over. That I know what she told me and how she reacted to me was a direct result of her father's manipulation. Am I the arsehole? Edit, since a nice Redditor brought it to my attention. My kids are adopted. She is my only biological child. I'm just used to saying that I had kids. They are technically my late sister-in-law's children, but I raised them these last 7 years. And we're going to go straight to the comments, starting with Administration This, who says you're the arsehole, and quotes, I was young, stupid, and in love. This is my only excuse for living like that. And goes on to say, your daughter was also young and surrounded by manipulative people who turned her against you. You were able to snap out of it and work hard to make a life for yourself. Your daughter, who hurt your feelings when she was literally a child, seems to have snapped out of it as well. But you offer her no grace. Maroon Grad says no one's an arsehole here. You aren't going to get over it all immediately, and I can see the reluctance to go too fast and get your heart broken again. But I can see how she wants to make up for all the years she missed and doesn't want to miss any more. Keep in mind that her other alternatives may be Christmas alone or stuck having Christmas with the man who cost her her mother. Exhorter says, not the arsehole, I feel like people are missing the part where there are children involved. Opie is right to evaluate what kind of person her daughter is before introducing her to the family. You don't just suddenly bring your estranged daughter to Christmas. Remarkable Station says choice of words matter. No one's an arsehole here, but maybe I would have gone with I need time to heal, let's rebuild, just us before we involve more family. Or anything else rather than I don't trust you. Might be true, but it's also hurtful. Kicking Wan says feel like there's a lot of missing context here. The courts don't generally grant custody to fathers, let alone unemployed ones, so I need some info there. Opie responded and said small town, connected father-in-law who happens to be rich, and me barely over the poverty line, and not from said town. I was lucky to get visitations. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Classic Compliant 373, who says, am I the arsehole for telling my future mother-in-law that if she keeps pushing for a child-free wedding, I'm going to convince her son to elope? My fiancé and I met at university. I was there on scholarship and he was a legacy. For those of you who might not understand what that means, I will try to explain. A legacy is a student that may or may not meet the qualifications to get into a certain university. However, their family has a long history with the school and alumni, and as an alumni, donate to the endowment or contribute in some other way to the school. He's actually a charming and intelligent person and didn't need family connections to get in. He's a kind and generous person. I could spend this entire post talking about him, but that's not why I'm here. His family is fancy. They want us to have a huge fancy wedding, and his mother is harping on about it being child-free. My family is not fancy, and I love all my little relatives. I'm from Colombia. I grew up calling anyone that I was even remotely related to that was close to my age, primo/prima, cousin. Anyone older was tio/tia, uncle/aunt. I have so many little cousins and nibblings that I want at my wedding. One of my dreams has already been a wedding picture where it's just me in my wedding dress, just surrounded by kids. But my future mother-in-law keeps insisting that we should be child-free for the reception. I'm sick of it. We are visiting his family for Christmas and we just had another discussion about the wedding. I finally lost it. I very politely informed her that if I heard one more word about how she didn't like that we were planning our wedding to include children, that I would convince her son to elope. He is on the spectrum and isn't really looking forward to a huge wedding anyways. He says he would be happy with a courthouse wedding. He is equally happy with what we are planning. He is not happy about his mum trying to dictate to us plans for a wedding she isn't paying for. We are paying for everything ourselves. She is in the other room being comforted by her daughter and other daughter-in-law. All three of them said I was being cruel to threaten to not have a wedding for her eldest son. My fiance's dad agrees with us that it is our choice. Before anyone asks, my family could have paid my university tuition and board without breaking the bank. We just aren't fancy. Am I being the arsehole like they said? Now this one's a very simple one to me. This is your wedding. You want your younger relatives there, so absolutely have them there. Mother-in-law don't like it? Well, she can piss off. Stony says, not the arsehole. I'm guessing she was going to use the wedding to flaunt wealth and invite social friends to impress. If you are feeling magnanimous, tell her if she wants to throw an adult-only engagement party or something else, you'll be happy to attend on her dime, but the wedding is non-negotiable. Secret Jealous says, not the arsehole. She has no say in your wedding. Even if she was paying for the whole thing, she would not get to dictate who you invite. I have some experience with a just no mother-in-law. You are making a good decision to set and enforce boundaries early on in your relationship with her. East Variety says you should incorporate all the kids into your wedding. I'm picturing 19 flower girls twirling down the aisle. It's your wedding, not the arsehole. Corgi Huntress says, not the arsehole. I don't know why it matters to her that the wedding be child-free, but her opinion doesn't matter whatsoever. It's your wedding and it's your choice, yours and your fiance's. There's only so long you can put up with the nagging and not listening. You did not so much threaten her as promise her. She now knows she's not going to get her own way, and she doesn't like it. And one more comment from Imaginary Fall, who says, not the arsehole. It's your wedding, and I think it's wonderful that you want to include all the children in your family that you love and care for. I also love the idea of the picture of you in your wedding dress with them surrounding you. I think it would be beautiful. You only told your future mother-in-law what you did because she kept pushing the issue and is seemingly the only person who wants it to be child-free. You wouldn't have had to been so firm with her if she would only respect your wishes on your special day, so in my opinion, you are definitely not the arsehole in this scenario. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And our next story comes from Throwaway Mama Mia and says, my 29 female, husband 30 male, has been going out with his co-worker, 23 female lately. We've been together for 8 years and married for over a year now. He's been working in this company after he graduated from college. I've never heard him talk about any of his co-workers because he's not really that kind of guy who tried so hard to make a connection with other people. He's very introverted and likes to be in his bubble. Sadly, he's just the type of guy that's easy to approach and talk with. He doesn't know that, but I've been with him for 8 years. He's very calm, funny, and quirky. These past few months, my husband has been mentioning this poor girl. I remembered a lot of bullshit happened to her this year. That's why my husband is trying to uplift her. My husband does not usually do that. He doesn't usually give a fuck about anyone. He asked me if I'm cool if he'd bring this girl to a bar, and I asked if I could come along, and he said that he doesn't really want to stir up awkwardness between me and her. Especially he's trying to comfort her after she had this recent breakup. He showed me her picture. She's really obviously young and very pretty. I've read their conversations and it hurts sometimes that my husband always initiates the conversation. They have been going out every Saturday. I told him I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with this friendship. He said that there's nothing to worry about and that he's just helping her out. It's like a female to female friendship. I don't know what he's trying to point out, but everything between them two scares the shit out of me. My husband still lets me read their conversation from time to time, and the fuck, it hurts me that he responds to her faster more than me. I hate how he kept apologizing whenever this girl left her on red. It's like I'm fucking reading how my husband begged this girl to give him some of her attention and time, and I can't take it anymore. I don't know how I'd approach him because it's always ended up that I'm feeling this for nothing, that there's nothing to worry about. I told him that I want to meet her and he said, for what reason? I don't know what to do anymore. I don't even think she knew that my husband is married. And that last paragraph really made me think when you said I don't know how I'd approach him because it always ended up I'm feeling this for nothing and there's nothing to worry about, and I told him I want to meet her and he said for what reason? And that instantly jumped into my head your last sentence, that does she even know that he's married? Which, you know, might be unfair to say, and I may have read one too many Reddit stories, but it certainly did just pop into my head. And I know many male or female colleagues who's gone out with the opposite sex after work for a quick drink or gone to lunch with them, etc. But where it really struck me is that it's like every Saturday. They've been going out every Saturday. But to me, I gotta say it doesn't feel right to me. But Irish Kathy says, no woman I know would go out weekly with a married man and not understand exactly what is happening. Put your foot down. Saturday you go with him or he takes you on a date. Not his 23-year-old friend. This is nonsense. He's cheating, if not physically, emotionally, and he is trying to get away with it in plain sight. Not okay. Mysterious Prize replies to that and says, I don't know. I'm friends with many women I have worked with, and I know a few other married guys that are friends with women as well. I've gone out for lunch or dinner one-on-one many times. I always tell my wife about it and, if available, invite her to join us too. That's the weird part of this to me, is that he is actively blocking his wife from interacting with her. Also, I always respond to my wife faster than anyone else. Point is though, I think it is very possible for men to be strictly friends with women, or any folks to be strictly friends with whatever gender they may happen to be attracted to. Irish Kathy then responds to that and says, friends sure, occasional one-on-one lunch or dinner okay, but a standing Saturday night date without your spouse? Nope. Madtown Mitch says not okay. If he still won't introduce her to you, he's having an affair or wants to. Going out with her instead of you once is one thing. Multiple times on Saturday nights, you need to tell him to break it off now. Full stop. Basic Escape replies to that and says, this has to end. Calmly state that you need him to distance himself from her, as this is making you uncomfortable, and you are his wife, and therefore come first. It is non-negotiable. He has given her plenty of your time to get over a breakup. Now it is your expectation that you'll be going out together on Saturday nights, etc. Nick says, the way he started to clearly blur a boundary and get you to be on board with what he's up to is straight up wrong. You know this isn't right, you just don't know how far it's gone. You have a very uncomfortable conversation to have with him and a very difficult decision to make afterwards, if I had to guess. He needs to admit that this isn't okay and cut her out. Something tells me he won't be willing to do that. And one more from Every Jump, who says he wants to cheat, or he already is. He's trying to cheer her up over a breakup. Pretty sure she has friends that can do that, and he refuses to introduce you because of awkwardness, lol. Add to the fact that you said normally doesn't give a fuck about people, but now he cares about an attractive 23-year-old woman. So then OP comes in with her first update, which says, after this post I approached my husband that I want him to stop seeing this girl every Saturday unless he would bring me along. He told me that I'm not making any sense, that he could just bring me and why I'm making this a big deal. I asked him if this girl knew he's married, and based on his reaction, I knew that she doesn't know he's married. He said that would brush the fact that he's married in her face. I called him names and he got so upset. I took his phone and go through every single app. He's been messaging her from time to time. I found out he gave her a very expensive gift that was worth almost $1,000. I was hella pissed about it. We had a joint and personal account. A lot of things happened after this post that my brain couldn't process everything. I've threatened him that I will tell this girl I'm his wife and she's being a home wrecker. He said he will never forgive me if he ruined this one and only friendship he had. I told him that he doesn't make any sense, that he's being disrespectful to our relationship. He said that he doesn't feel the love ever since we got married. He's never been this happy, excited, and content with anyone. I ended up messaging the girl. She said that she doesn't know he's married and was very apologetic about it. He was so mad and left the house. I don't know what to do. I've been calling his phone, but he's not picking up. I messaged the girl if she's with him. She said he's not there, that she just got into a breakup and a lot of things happened to her, so she doesn't want to be involved with anyone. She was so sorry. If she would have known he was married, she would never have bothered going out with him. I found out she just started working there 3 months ago. I have so many questions in my mind. OP then updated again and says, I haven't told any of my family and friends about this. I felt embarrassed, very ugly and pathetic right now. The last thing I want to see on their face is the pity face. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. My husband went back around 3 a.m. and we talked about it. He said he could no longer see me in his future ever since we got married. The reason why he has been working a lot was he does not want me to be around. I asked him why did he wait, because we've been married for a year. He thought his feelings will come eventually, that it's just a phase and there's no way his love for me will be gone overnight, but every day just feels worse for him. He doesn't want me anymore, that he thinks is totally over and we could even be friends. He said that throughout our married life, he moved on. I felt the ultimate betrayal. I told him that we could go for couples counseling and work it out. He cried and says he doesn't want to be stuck anymore. It's not about his co-worker anymore, it's about what he felt in our relationship. He cried and asked for divorce while I'm crying and begging him not to. I'm so confused and I don't know what to do. I felt like I was a good partner. I asked him about his co-worker if they ever had sex. He said that he genuinely cares and likes her. He's getting to know her more bullshit, but he thinks she doesn't see him that way. Nothing happened between them. I asked him about the money he spent on her. He said that he bought her a Christmas gift. I'm in so much pain that I felt numb, that I couldn't believe this is happening to me. And I think this will be my last update. I guess I'll be welcoming 2023 as a fucking divorced woman. And I know OP said they didn't want pity, they don't want sympathy or anything like that, but you gotta feel sorry for someone who's gone through this. Been married for a year and then find out, throughout that marriage, someone didn't love you and they were just hoping that their feelings would come back. It's gotta be fucking hard to hear, man. And the fact that he's basically been trying to get with someone else this whole time. And I hope for OP over time, that they realize that this is going to be the best for them. But obviously it's going to hurt, but you don't want to be with someone that doesn't love you and has treated you like they have in this particular post. You deserve way better than that. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below and let's move on to another story. And I spotted a bit of a different story for our next one today that I wanted to read because I found it quite interesting myself. I'm not sure if you will, but it's about someone who turns to Reddit when their brother is in danger of dying in the Buffalo blizzard of 2022. The original post was from June DZA Man, who says, I need urgent help. But before we get to that post, there was some general info from the poster who says, Buffalo, New York is known for its snowy winters, but the blizzard of 2022 has been called the storm of a lifetime. 48 inches, 122 centimeters of snow fell in about 48 hours. With the wind chill, the temperature was -30 Fahrenheit / -34 Celsius. The conditions were so bad that emergency services were suspended. 40 people died. So then the I Need Urgent Help post says, my brother got stuck in his car this afternoon. He is near the address removed. He is running out of gas. We tried our best to reach out to the fire department, police and tow companies, but didn't get any help yet. Please, someone help me. Any help or suggestion would be really appreciated. Then someone commented on that post who was a local volunteer firefighter who says, volunteer firefighter here. Our trucks cannot move in this snow. We are getting stuck. We cannot get to anyone at the moment. At least 50% of the town's fire apparatus are stuck somewhere. I hate to say this, but if you can contact him, tell him help is probably not coming. He's going to have to get resourceful. Knock on doors, do something. There is nothing we can do at the moment. We are snowed in the fire hall. Then another commenter called Spore211215 says, I live close by. I can bring some gas and some warm clothes possibly. If he's up for it, I can walk him back to that fire hall. I live near that area. And then Spore, the person who says that they can volunteer to help, made their own post who says, saw another post on here saying someone was stuck on street removed near Crab Apples. But I think to myself, hey, I only live about half a mile from there. I bet I could help this person, and make the decision to go. He's been stuck there all day and his clothes got wet from the snow trying to leave, so I knew he was in need of help. So I'm getting myself ready. I grab what little gas I have, I grab some food and water in case he needs any, and some new warm clothes and a blanket for him. Then I gear myself up. I put on some thick hiking socks, sweatpants, a backpack to carry my gear, puffy snow pants, a Hanes white tee, 2 sweaters, a jacket, a high-vis vest, thick leather winter gloves, insulated winter muck boots, a headband and a motorcycle helmet to try and combat the snow and wind. So it's time to head out. It's about 11 PM, wind gusts are still ripping outside and snowdrifts can bring the visibility down to 0. The motorcycle helmet is a mixed bag of help and having snow stuck in my face, but overall a good choice. Now let me tell you that going to get this man was difficult. I'm a taller man myself, so the snowbanks weren't as much of a struggle for me. But unfortunately, when the snow drifts go up to my mid-thigh, and every step has my foot drop all the way down in the snow with no resistance, it leads to walking becoming a big task in itself. So I'm making my way down the street and it is difficult. I get that I'm wearing a motorcycle helmet and it's hard to breathe in that, but even when the visor is lifted, it was still hard to breathe. Not only from the snow constantly blowing in my face, but also the fact that it was hard to walk. I'm in decent shape, but walking through those drifts is no easy task. Eventually I make it down my street and a few streets over, switching between easier and near impossible spots of walking along the way. I get to an automotive business and their building blocked a lot of the snow, which let me walk like normal for once in a long while. I keep tracking, but I'm near a main road without buildings as densely packed, so the snowdrifts are blinding at points and I need to focus on buildings and objects to know where I'm going. Eventually I make it to the man's car after a good 40 minutes of walking when I only traveled 0.6 miles. So I get to the car and give him some clothes because that's mostly what he was interested in. Didn't care for any gas or food or water, but I made sure to offer it to him to be sure. He changes and gets ready to make the trek himself with my help. After a few minutes, he is ready and we are on our way. He says he talked with someone and he has a house he can go to be warm and safe for the night that is about 0.3 miles away. Alright, sounds good, let's head there. We make our way there. The man is not well dressed for the weather, but you gotta work with what you've got. He has regular sneakers on, his pants and my snow pants I gave him, the hat I gave him, the sweater I gave him and his shirt underneath. He throws a blanket on his head as kind of protection against the wind and snow. It's bad out. My tracks from just a few minutes ago are all but gone, but I know the way I'm going, so it's all right. We walk up the road to cross the street and quickly cross the street. It's hard to see or hear anything, so we can't really tell if a plow is coming, so we act fast to try and stay safe. Then we make it to the side street. Well, needless to say, that street hasn't been plowed in ages. Snow drifts near my chest and no paths available, so it's time to trailblaze and make our own. We need to make it maybe like 9 or 10 houses into the street, but with snow like this, we are barely progressing at all. I'm dressed for the condition, so I'm only getting tired. The man I'm helping isn't doing great. Snow is accumulating on his face and he occasionally falls in the snowbanks and needs to recover. When we get near houses that block the wind, we take a break and relax because we need the energy to make it to the house and can't give up. Well, eventually through more struggles, we eventually make it to the house. About 0.3 miles in, 30 or so minutes. The person living in the house graciously let us both in. I recover by warming up a little bit. The snow that accumulated on me just starts dripping and melting, which I know is a bad sign for me, so I make it stop short so I'm not drenched in water on my trek back. The man I helped is very thankful and gets comfortable and warm for the first time in hours. But I can't stay long, so I tell him I'm glad that he is safe, thank the homeowner / renter / whoever the man that let me in was. Now on my way back home, it's a few minutes after midnight. Made it about a mile in about an hour. Not great, but it is what it is. It's another 0.6 or so miles home. My phone is getting caked with ice at this point, but surprisingly keeps working throughout the whole trip without any issues. Time to make my way back. I can actually see my trail this time, so I utilize my previous steps to try and make my walk back a little bit easier. I'm starting to struggle, but I know I can't stop. Eventually I make it back to street removed and see a front loader messing around with some snow from, I'm assuming, an emergency vehicle traffic. His windows are all iced and fogged up and I can't tell if he even sees me. I've got my mission, so I stay the hell out of his way and keep going. I give a wave and thumbs up and keep making my way back home. Cross street removed quick because now I know the plows are around, so I gotta be out their way. Back into my neighborhood. Now my trail is gone, but I know where I'm going, or at least I think I do. I keep making my way. I take a pit stop and call the girlfriend at home and let her know I'm okay and all that jazz so she can relax. Phone call ends and I keep making my way. Snow is blocking up my visor and I have been constantly raising and lowering it this whole trip. Fog and ice is really blocking my vision, so I essentially need to keep my visor up to see and only lower it to catch my breath or block the heavy snow gusts. My progress is really slowing now and my right leg is starting to hurt. Feels like I'm pulling something near my hip. Oh well, that's unfortunately not something I can dwell on while in the streets in a snowstorm. I keep making my way at a severely reduced pace and take a turn onto my street. Unfortunately, I was a bit exhausted and confused and made the turn one street too early and realized that about halfway down the street. Weighing my options, I decided I can't really keep going forward here without risking wasting even more time trying to get home. So I backtracked to where I made the wrong turn and continue on the correct path. Eventually, I made it one street further and make my correct turn. I am getting exhausted and my leg is really starting to bother me. No matter, gotta keep going. I hook a left and I'm on the final stretch home. Foot trail is gone again, so I'm on my own for making a path. Snowdrifts are getting bad and extremely difficult to get through. I start counting my paces and can only make between 10 to 25, usually only 10, before I need to stop and catch my breath. Gotta keep going. That trail's on for a while. Eventually I start walking right up against people's houses if the snowdrift made a path to walk where there was less snow. I'm close to home but very, very tired. Thankfully for the most part the snow is at least at my back on this path. I keep struggling but can't give up. I'm making nearly no progress, but I gotta get home. Eventually I can see my house light but still have little energy to make it there. 10 steps, 10 steps, 10 steps. I'm close. I see the last section of snow to near my house. 5 steps. My leg is really hurting. 5 steps. Boom. Home. I'm exhausted and ready to drop. I make it in the door. Girlfriend helps take off all my clothes and backpack and whatnot. I'm caked in snow but stayed warm throughout. I tried to take my helmet off, but the snow caked on the back of my head so much that my hair had ice in it that made them stuck together, and she needed to melt the ice with her hand to get it off. I have her check me for frostbite and surprisingly there's none to be found, which I might debate. At the time of writing this my ears are still a bit numb and funny feeling, but nothing of much concern here. Almost like the feeling of Novocaine at the dentist, but to a much lesser extent. And then I relax. She has hot cocoa ready for me as I walked in and I'm just getting to relax now. I earned this hot chocolate. Mission success. Helped a man get home safe and got home myself. Then the homeowner themselves replies to that post with, "Thank you, man. You saved the guy's life. May Allah bless you. I'm the homeowner who you guys came in. For a second I thought you were a first responder with your motorcycle helmet on. Lol. There's a happy ending story. The man stayed in my house 2 nights and he headed out this morning. He helped me clean some snow off my driveway before he left. He arrived at his home safe. His car is still stuck on the road. Thank you once again." Spore replied saying, "You helped save him too. Thank you for letting him stay with you. You're a hero for letting him in. No problem at all." Then an update from the original OP again, who says, "Last night I made a post asking for help for my brother who was stranded in the snow. After posting I got a lot of suggestions and advice. Then from nowhere this man came and offered this help. Shout out to this kind human, Angel Spore, for helping my brother out of the snow in Buffalo last night. This man deserves all the love and prayers and gratitude for risking his own life to help save the life of a stranger. My family will be forever indebted to him, and I just want to help spread his story in hopes of spreading some good news during this holiday season. Please help me in making this local story known. Thank you and happy holidays." What an absolutely terrifying tale. And I had to keep going back, so he posted this story, so he's still with us all the way through, because that sounded absolutely scary. I don't think I've ever experienced snow up to my ankles before. When we had snow a couple of months ago, I think it was like not even a centimeter of snow, and it was posts everywhere on Twitter and like chaos in the UK, and it was like snow plows going across this, like, as I said, not even a centimeter of snow. Just insanely ridiculous. But I would hate to think what would have happened if no one came out to that guy. You said yourself you went out relatively well equipped with snow gear and a helmet and all this kind of stuff, and the gentleman in the car wasn't well equipped and he was already wet. So if he eventually did have to leave his car from getting too cold, run out of gas and the heater's packed up or whatever happened, what would have happened to him? Would he have made it? You literally saved someone's life. It's a true Reddit legend post. Usually these posts become legends because of something insane like the poo knife story or something like that. But this is a hero story. And it got me tearing up towards the end. I tear up over anything these days, but a human seeing another human in dire need and going out to help them, to save them, is just absolutely incredible. Well done to you, Spore. And I'm glad that your family is safe. Junzazman. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name. But now I'm going to turn it to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Maybe some of you experienced that blizzard, and let me know your thoughts. Let me know your experiences and what you went through and what you saw. Would love to hear about it. As I said, in the UK, we don't get nothing like that at all. -30. And I just done a quick Google of like the UK's record lowest temperature, and it was -27.2, and that's in Scotland somewhere. Not sure how accurate that is, but but comparing it to this post where it's like -30 Fahrenheit, -34 Celsius. Insane. And 48 inches of snow. It's incredible. And incredibly scary at the same time. Anyway, let me know your thoughts.
Man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah,